fuck all you.
Oh, it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for joining Bits and Bytes. United States edition, baby. 50 states in 50 weeks, that's what we're doing. This week, on deck, week 5, the one and the only Big Bad California. That's right. We're getting deep on California, baby. Today's the day. The first big state, let's say. It's the first big state that I think we've had. Nothing against the other states. You guys are great, but, you know, let's be honest. California's a big boy state. Alaska, you're great. We love you. The Alaska people, fine products. Alabama, Arkansas, your other A's. The other one we forgot, it's great. You're all fantastic. But California, man, you are a big boy state. The old American dream state. Let's bring up the facts like we do. What do we got up here? The Golden State, it's called. Statehood in 1850, the 31st state of the Union. That's interesting. I wonder if that's because there was the gold rush. And essentially, when everyone landed here in the East, just said, hey, everyone go west, there's free money. You just go dig it out. That's where everyone went, the money grubbing. All the money grubbers went west, so beeline to the 31st state of the other coast. That shows you how greedy everybody was. Population as of July 2015, almost 40 million people. Jesus. Got a lot of people out there, Cali. Capital is Sacramento. Biggest city is LA. The abbreviation is CA. Caca. The state bird, let's see it. I know you look stupid, probably. The state bird, there it is. The California Valley Quail. Dumb birds. Every state, a dumb bird. State flower, California Poppy. Ah, looking good. That's a cool little thing. Nice orange. Real cool. All right, guys, here we are. I mean, everyone knows where California is. I don't think we need to do a big introduction. A lot of people don't know where Arkansas is on a map, but California, come on. You know where California's at, baby. It's on the West Coast. All the way in the West. Let's see the notes here. What do we got here? Most important state, questionably. Something I wrote down here. The last stop west. We were discovering gold in California back when we found this country 200 whatever years ago it was. Dirtbags who wanted to be rich for free moving there. And the gold rush kind of trained everybody for what everyone knows to be terrible in California. One of their biggest gripes, not smog, not fires, not water shortages. That's right, it's traffic. LA traffic is all you ever hear people fucking complain about. I said I was going to try to watch my language today. We're trying. Hold me honest here. Production. Let's see, what else do we got here? Fires all the time. Dumpster fires, train, that's great. Water shortages all the time. What are you doing out there? How are you constantly running out of water, yet having a fire all the time? Are you using all the water? It's confusing. It's scary. This year the fires were pretty scary to look at. I remember seeing those headlines. It's pretty bad. So you got water shortages all the time, droughts all the time, fires all the time. It's a great combo. Obviously, who wouldn't want to flock to a state like that? It's a beautiful state. There's no question about it. I've been to California many times. You look west, you got the beautiful water, which is very different than the East Coast water. West Coast water and beachfronts are completely different than East Coast. And then to your east, you got the beautiful mountain ranges, the Sierra Nevadas. What else we got? There's another range in there. Zooming in. Pull me up. Look at this. So we got San Jose, the Bay Area, San Francisco as it's known. Pull the music down, will you? Jesus Christ. Get a hold of yourself. No one's here for your free music. Sacramento, there it is. Outside San Francisco to the northeast. We got Napa and wine country up here. You got NorCal, where everyone's growing all that sticky icky. all these national parks over here. Look at all this to the right. This is all national park butting up against dirty Nevada we won't be at till later. Well, Reno, let's be fair. Well, maybe the whole state. A lot of national parks, a lot of beauty out there. Death Valley, Joshua Tree in the south, LA all the way down here. You could ride all the way up, check out Big Sur, hit San Jose, hit the Bay Area, and down to San Diego. To me, I've never been to San Diego, but it looks like it's a whole different world down there. Hopefully, our guest today can talk to us a little bit about Southern California. I'm assuming he's been down there, but he generally is from the area of Napa. Winemaker, vineyard master, Steve Mathiasen is going to be joining us later on the program, everybody. That's right, Steve Mathiasen. Yes, studio audience. Appreciate that. What else we got here? We got a lot of food. We got food and stuff. Let's not forget, we got the bits and the bites. Every time I'm putting together the food, I'm like, man, I got to eat this on camera. No one really wants to see you eat on camera. I know I generally do not. But let's see what we got here today in the old good box. Look at all these delicious items. California Olive Ranch, a very great provider of, producer of olive oil, I think, that you can get nationwide. That happened to be my cabinet. Actually says 100% California on it, so I said I'm going to put it in the spread. Sourdough. Everyone knows sourdough from California as if they made it. You know this. You know this stuff. Polarizing. Smells mad yeasty. California loves yeast. They're working on beers. They're working on wines. They got the sourdough. They're just a yeasty kind of people out there. Smells sour. This is a sourdough from a couple days ago. If you didn't know, sourdough actually gets better. You know, after the day after you bake it, 2 days later, it gets enhanced sour flavor. But this is sourdough. Not going to bother eating that. It's there. Get your own sourdough. You tell me what it tastes like. Also, we have some almonds and some pistachios, some nuts, also some apricots there that are in the middle that are dried. These are all from California. I think something like 10% of California's overall industry is like food manufacturing, exporting. Could be wrong on that, but what are you gonna do? Agriculture is definitely a big part of it. They grow a lot of shit out there. Strawberries, grapes. Avocados are not from there. I thought they would be. They're not. They just love eating them out there. They love avocados. You ever go to California? Everything with avocado. Plus $10. Piece of toast, $5. Plus avocado, $15. Put avocado on anything out there. Which brings me to the thing that I don't even believe I thought of until today. That's right. The lowly... And the first thing we're going to eat today is the avocado roll. You know, the avocado roll, not the avocado roll, I'm sorry. The California roll. You know, can we examine this a little bit? Can we look what's in here? Do we all know what a California roll is? I think we do. I'm going to get a little deep zoom for you so you can see. We're talking about... I'll bring this over here. I'm going to knock everything over. We're talking about classic... avocado, crab, celery, not celery, sorry, avocado, crab, cucumber. And this one's particularly California since it's got brown rice. Who needs that? But look, we got a little ginger here. We got a nice little spread, nice little, nothing like some sushi made earlier in the day that you're going to enjoy in your studio. I mean, that's how all the sushi masters tell you to enjoy their sushi. In a dark studio, with studio lighting, about 8 hours after it's been made. That's what you want to hear. So, California roll, you know, it's an introductory roll for people who, I guess, are afraid of raw fish because the crab that's in there is always cooked. It's always a safe bet. It's that fake crab stick garbage that no one really ever wants. But it's not bad. You dip it in some soy there. Crunchy, avocado-y. Tastes just like you're in California, you know? Ah, yeah, California. Apparently some guy in Vancouver claims he made it. And because it had avocado in it, they call it a California roll. Is that true? I'm going to go ahead and say no. And if it was, we're not going to allow it because that's just like mocking California. And California's a cool state. So, yeah, it's great. We have some beverages. So I took a bite of the California roll. We've all had a California roll. California doesn't have any of this, like, really exciting stuff. I looked into, like, you know, what kind of great, individual products that I can get from California and bring in. But there's nothing like, I'm sure there is, all right? Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going there on a foot race looking for the thing. They grow so much shit, and growing stuff there is what they do, because their climate is fantastic for growing stuff. So that's why I got the spread of the nuts, spread of the apricots. The California rolls, definitely an influence thing of California. It's called the California roll. I think that's completely fair and valid to be on the show. And the sourdough bread is most definitely a thing. So I think these are all fair things. And then I did in my travels and my studies find this Olipop vintage cola. Now, it's a vintage cola, which I'm not really even sure what that means. I've never had this. Nope, that's Wolfgang Puck. We'll get to him in a moment. I don't know anything about Olipop. I've never seen this before. But it's a vintage cola, and it's made, I believe, in Oakland, California. I'll read you the back. We've spent years crafting a drink that's as good for your digestion as it is delicious. I'm already probably not digging this. No added sugars, vegan, paleo. What's in here? Water, some kind of fake sugar. This sounds bizarre. Let's just get in here. Because we got beers, we got wines, we got work to do. So let's try the old Olipop, and if it's worth my time, we'll get into it. Look at this cool little cup I got. Oh, it smells like Coke. I mean, obviously they called it vintage cola. We're going for Coca-Cola, right? It smells like Diet Coke, let's be fair. Tastes like Diet Coke. Tastes like bad, flat Diet Coke. Sorry, Olipop, you're not my favorite bit out of California. But I did see it, and I swiped it. I thought it'd be a thing. Not great. That's a big one thumb down. Flat, not fantastic. Gonna have to eat one of these dried apricots from California to cleanse the old palate before we get into what I will consider. Let's get this out of here, please. What I will consider. I was just gonna get picked up on the green screen. Oh yeah, I got a green screen can. The Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. One of the first, if not, no, that's not him. We're not him yet. We're not there yet. I'm ready to get to Wolfgang Puck, but not yet. The Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Now, like I said, California's got a lot of food and a lot of wine. But when the beer craze struck America, I think this is the original craft beer. This is the first alternative to the Budweisers, to the Yuenglings of the world, and all that crap that everyone drinks, the domestic beers as they call it. I don't remember when I had my first Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, but it most definitely is still one of my favorite beers to date. Any beer, whenever I was trying to make beer, when I was brewing beer, or I go to a brewery, I always ask for a generic pale ale, and I always compare it to this. And there's only one other beer that I compare in this league of a classic pale ale, not an IPA, not all of those, a classic pale ale. And the only other beer that I compare that to is Yard's Pale Ale, which is also a fantastic East Coast version, kind of the, at the time, this would be considered a hop bomb. It's actually not very much a hop bomb. It's a super delicious, really great beer. Fantastic head on there. Great pour. Fantastic. It's just so good. I mean, this is everything I want in a beer. It's like a lawnmower beer. I want to just crush this all the time. I don't know if it tastes like California. I don't know if, like, Northern California tech bros crush pale ales, or, you know, Hollywood moguls crush pale ales. I'm not really sure what they're doing with it out there. I don't even know if it's actually that popular there. But I'll tell you what, I love this shit. It's always in my fridge. That's my go-to beer. So I'm very happy to bring that on the program. Talk a little bit about that. But let's talk a little bit about some foods of California. Let's get back a little bit to some bites. Let's talk about this man. Let's talk about this man here. So when I was a youngin', I'd have to say that when I thought about the West Coast or California, a state I'd never, you know, when I was a kid watching cartoons on Saturday morning or something, 7, 8 years old. This guy, I've heard his name all the time, but I probably didn't see his face. Old Wolfgang Puck. All right? And the thing that was associated with him was California Pizza Kitchen. Now, I didn't really need to even look much further into it to know the origins or where it's from or anything like that, because I know that the name California Pizza Kitchen is because they started in California, and they actually started like a whole trend of making these ridiculous pizzas with all this shit on it. You know the joke. It's like, oh, it's like a New York slice. It's really good. And there's a slice with buffalo wings and celery and barbecue sauce and all that. And it's like California style. No, it's not a real slice. It's like a different thing. So obviously he's very successful with California Pizza Kitchen. We love you, Puck. I believe he's an Austrian chef. He's fantastic. But it just so happens that while I was in the store, we got ourselves a California Pizza Kitchen, and I do believe this is the classic version of the original one that they made. So I believe at some point I watched something on California Pizza Kitchen, and the first one they made was a barbecue chicken pizza. And in the store, lo and behold, a barbecue chicken pizza. Wow. Barbecue seasoned grilled white meat chicken, red onions, cilantro, mozzarella, and hickory smoked Gouda cheeses over sweet and tangy barbecue sauce. That's 6 items. Wow. That's a lot of stuff. 6 items is a lot of stuff on a pizza, don't you think? What do you think, Wolfgang? Wolfgang, what's your thought on 6 items on a pizza?
We did a Mediterranean pizza. We sauteed some fresh hot peppers, topped with a little bit of smoked salmon, and then we put a little bit of a sweet, syrupy balsamic topping.
Boy, I never saw that many ingredients on one pizza.
There's a lot.
Confirmed liar. Wolfgang Puck is a confirmed liar. These people on this stupid show that we just watched had 3 items on their pizza that they were judging, and he said, wow, I never saw so many ingredients on a pizza. What is that? Well, here it is, folks. The legendary California Pizza Kitchen barbecue chicken pizza, fresh from my frozen section, freshly cooked in my toaster oven. I thought nothing goes better with that than a nice Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I am living the California dream. Look at me. I am California dreaming here. I got the beets. I got the beer. Can't make this shit up. I just had to laugh. I was looking up Wolfgang Puck stuff, and those poor saps gave him a pizza with 3 things on it. And he goes, wow, I never saw something. There's 6 things. You literally have double on this pizza that you sell. Make millions on, Puck. Get a hold of yourself. Look at that face. That's a face of a man who doesn't give a shit. He's like, buy my dumb pizza. All right, let's eat it. I mean, it smells like barbecue sauce. I know no one in California eats this. I realize the California Pizza Kitchen is not some kind of local California Pizza Kitchen pizza food. We will not be asking Stephen Thiessen which his favorite CPK pie will be. Maybe we will. Where's this towel? I'm gonna finish chewing it. It's sweet. Got like a sugar sauce. Barbecue sauce is way too sweet. One bite. Everyone knows the rules. No. I give this a solid 4.5 for a frozen pizza. Got the consistency of like a bar pie. Flat, cardboard. No good. I was just very happy that I could find this and bring this to the table. Because I've never had to look for this before. And when the hell ever would I buy this shit? I mean, it wasn't terrible. It's just not pizza. I don't get fresh Cali vibes when I eat this. I get frozen food vibes. If that's not a California spread, I don't know what is. Get this stupid box out of here. Wolfgang Puck. Disgrace. 3 ingredients. He's disgusted, yet he sells a 6-ingredient monstrosity. How dare you? Pale ale, really good. So it goes well with beer. This we know. What other notes do I have on California? So, the gold rush, that's right. We talked about that, right? So we gave away free money. People came to the country on the East Coast And, you know, who knows how it actually went down. None of us were there. But it was probably getting real populated over there. And they're like, you know what, guys, we heard that there's gold on the other side. Well, we'll go straight across. And everyone's like, we've never been there before. It's like, we've never been here before either. Just go. There's mountains with gold. You go dig it out, you're going to be rich. You're going to be a millionaire. It's going to be fantastic. California. That's why there's so many weird people there, I think. California definitely has a stigma on the east side of being full of weird people. LA maybe more so than the rest of the state. My stigmas that I know of California here is like LA, California you always hear is like fake people. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I've met a lot of people in California. Some of them were full of shit, but no more full of shit than any other state I've been to. San Francisco Bay Area is a beautiful place. LA I've never been to, so I can't speak, but I have been south of San Francisco and I have been north to Napa, Sonoma land. Very beautiful stuff up there, really nice. But that does bring me to the a couple points. The big things that stick out, I think, to the rest of the country about California. You got two things, I think. You got, you know, tech bros and Southern California, what I'll consider like Hollywood old era. You know, what the hell is that? What is that town called there? Is it Desert something? Palm Springs. That's it. Sorry, Palm Springs. Like, whenever I hear Palm Springs, I think about it's like Johnny Carson chain smoking and drinking whiskey and partying hard out in the desert like a champion. I don't even know where it is. I think it's outside LA. Up in the mountains. Yeah, here at Palm Springs. There it is. Yeah, so it's like the getaway from, you know, LA. So your LA super Hollywood team Hollywood out there getting it done. Hey, come up to Palm Springs for the weekend. I don't know why they talk. They don't talk like that. But Hollywood, man. Hollywood's a huge thing, especially when I was a kid. And now you don't get the vibe of Hollywood anymore. Like, I remember Hollywood being a thing where, I don't know, movies would come out and they would, like, tell you what was cool with a movie. And, like, you would look at it and be like, wow, that's crazy. And, like, I don't know, you just hear the stigma of, like, Hollywood being, like, a thing. Like, Hollywood. Oh, we're going to go out west to be famous in Hollywood. Like, if you were going to if you were moving to California or knew someone going to California, you're like, oh, you're going to be a movie star, man. That's crazy. Granted, I was young, but, like, that's just kind of the vibe that California put out. Like, they ran shit. You know, that's 15, 20 years ago, maybe even longer. Now, I think it's like tech bro vibes. I feel like South California, or like, you know, Hollywood, California world back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, like ran the world. They ran the game. They ran the table. What was cool? They told you it was cool. It's where you wanted to party. It's where you wanted to hang. And now I just don't get that vibe. Like, I don't hear about Hollywood being cool. It's all Marvel movies and shit, and, you know, comic books and nonsense. Like, I don't feel like they took the horns and ran with Hollywood. I feel like they let it go down. And I feel like they got beat up by North California. I keep wanting to say Colorado. It's next week. North California, which is now all tech bros, and they're destroying cities and probably soon the world. So it's almost like, from what I know of California, South California versus North California. And today, I think North California is winning. Steve Jobs went in there, threw it all around, flipped the table, and said, beat it, Hollywood. We're going to take this state over. Because now, I think if you talk to younger people, they're talking about California's a hotspot tech destination, you know, and wine. Those are the two things. You know, tech bros and wine. And comic book movies now. I think that's the only kind of movie. And reboots. We got reboots, out the ass, comic book movies, and tech bros. And world-dominating companies that are making robot dogs that'll eat us all and consume our bodies after they kill us. Yeah, big tech running the planet versus Southern California was focused on being cool. Nerds versus the cool people, pretty much, and it went back and forth. So you had the nerds in the north, and back, you know, in the Hollywood days, they would make fun of the nerds in the north working on their computers, and now fast forward, who's running the world? California had it all. Yeah, it was a big destination. Now it's just not much. People are fleeing, literally, today. There's like people I know are leaving California in droves. Famous, very successful people, and plebes, and jabronis. No one wants to be there anymore. So, I don't know. I don't have the taste of California like that. I don't live there. Whatever I went, I had a great time. It's a beautiful state. Very cool. Fun stuff. You dig into this pizza again? Let's try it. I don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. The pizza's not great. So like I said, we got a lot of, there's that dumb bird again. Stupid birds. We got the poppy. We got the cola. The Olipop. It's all right. I mean, if you want it, I wouldn't, I don't want to shit on it. We got this guy's laughing all the way to the bank. It's fantastic. The pale ale we love. And then we got Matthias on tap. He's going to be joining the call. He's going to be joining us at 7 o'clock our time. So what's that, 20 minutes or so? It's fantastic. I can't wait to talk to him. So Steve Matthias, in case you didn't know, he's James Beard Award 6-time nominee, winemaker of the year by the Chronicle out there, and super cool dude, all about, super organic, natural wines and winemaking with the earth. He's the guy knows everything about wine, but we're going to talk to him about his experience in California. Look at, I did it again. California, Colorado. We're going to talk to him about his experience in California, what he thinks about the state, and, get a little deep on wine. We're going to focus on wine because, we got a winemaker on, and I'm excited to talk to him. It's going to be a good time. Very excited to talk to him, man. So, California olive oil. So this company, I don't know much about them. I mean, we could assume they're in California. Probably not all their products, though, let's be fair. If you got to put a sticker on your olive oil that says 100% California, odds are the rest of your shit is not from California. It's a very California thing to do, thinking about it. Show one face and, do the other, but then actually, when you're really doing it, put the sticker on it. That makes sense. We don't want recipes. We want to see the products. 100% California, as opposed to your other stuff. Really misleading name, if that's the case. Our olive oil, the pursuit of great food starts with a great oil. Yay. Which one? We got the 100%, right? 100% Cali, baby. This is what we got. I could eat that with a piece of dry bread right now, but I'm not going to do that. I got the delicious taste of that California Pizza Kitchen really running through my head. I think I had one of the greatest strawberries of my life roadside in California. I can tell you one, maybe two good stories about eating in California. Roadside. I was driving around, going up the coast before we get to the olive oil. So there's a great road in California. I was in San Francisco, and then you take the 1. Everyone says you take the 1. You take the PCH. You take the Pacific Coast Highway, and you cruise your ass on down. So you fly into San Francisco. You hop in your car. You go see your friends. You fill your bag. And then you hop on 1, you go south, and then you just hug the coast. You don't have to hug the coast. You can go in, but you want to hug the coast. You want to see the falls. You want to see, let's see. You want to see, there's huge bluffs and just that's so beautiful out there. I mean, California really is one of those beautiful states. Look at that. That's the road you drive on. I mean, come on. That's the kind of shit you drive on for hours. It's very dangerous at certain points. You hit the turns, you're like, oh, if I was going a little faster, I could easily drive right off this. And it gets much higher than that sometimes. But it is very beautiful out there, without a doubt. And so when I was out there, I forgot how far down we went, but we did go through this cool little town. Santa Cruz is beautiful, obviously. So you leave the Bay Area, you get down, you get out of Santa Cruz. You hook this area here, and then you end up in Monterey. Now, this is a really interesting zone over here. I haven't even thought about this till right now. When you get to Monterey, there's this little town called Carmel by the Sea. Carmel by the Sea. And it's literally the epitome of a little town. There's a huge golf course there. I don't golf, forgive me. Pebble Beach. Literally Pebble Beach is right there, which is probably the number one golf thing, right? That's what people love, that shit. I was out there for golf. I was there just for, eating and drinking my way around. So when I hopped down there, I drove through Carmel by the Sea. It was so strange. These roads, you could almost see it. When you hop off the 1 and go down here, and I could be wrong. No. I think I'm right. No, we cruised all the way around all of this area down here and ended up. These are all tiny little homes, huge, rich homes that are all next to each other. The quintessential California style home that literally when you see it, you're like, oh, that's a California home. Not because it's huge, just because it's sun-drenched and beautiful and architecture. Fantastic homes down there in that area. If you're ever driving down there, I definitely pit stop in Carmel by the Sea just to get an eyeball on that. And then continue on down the 1 until you hit Gilroy, Colorado. God damn it. Gilroy, California, rather. I don't know where it is. I gotta type it. I'm not a California expert. Gilroy, California, also known as the garlic capital of the world. Like I told you, the agriculture is huge out in California. So when you get to Gilroy, this is where at least, I don't know if they grow all the garlic in the world there, but they definitely grow a lot of garlic. And more importantly, they have a garlic festival every year. They have a garlic festival every year where they do nothing but celebrate garlic. Here it is. Ah, yes. The Gilroy Garlic Fest for 4 decades. The heart of the... Get the hell out of here, you pop-up shits. Killing me. For 4 decades, the heart of the Gilroy Garlic Festival has been its dedicated volunteers. So they canceled it this year because of the pandemic? That's sad. They're very anguished. Well, they have a huge festival where you can imagine everything involves garlic. They have classes, food, toppings, this, that, all the tchotchke bullshit you could buy. Garlic-shaped light bulbs, garlic-shaped movies, garlic-shaped flamethrowers. Anything you want, they got it there, and it reeks of garlic apparently for a long time. Look, there's Miss Garlic herself. I think she has a stupid crown on. Whatever. Gilroy Garlic Festival. Very sad that they didn't do that this year. God damn you, coronavirus. You got everything. You really took us down a notch. Well, the Pacific Coast Highway is beautiful, and I'm familiar with that road, and I've driven down that road, and it is a beautiful experience stopping in Gilroy and picking up some garlic. There's a lot of breweries south when you do this drive. You hit one, you can pit stop at any of these side towns. There's a lot of breweries. California's great beer. Stone makes great. I mean, we could do a whole episode just on California beer, and I got just the guy to talk to about that. But that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to talk about California, the roots, the culture, what it's like to be in California. What it's like to live there. It's probably tough to talk to anyone who, unless you're, you spend a lot of time there working with the people there and doing that stuff. So it's an interesting state. It's a very large state. LA is like, how many hours is it from San Francisco to LA? Anyone? Internet, can you tell me? How far? I want to say 6 hours, but I'm going to guess longer. So if you fly into San Francisco or LA and take the drive, hey, look at that, 6 hours. I was right. But you want to take the one. You don't want to take that ride. You got to take the leisure trip, bro. You're talking about 8 hours here. See, they're like, no, don't do that. Why are you taking the one? We're talking about 8 hours. I don't know what it's doing now. Now it's getting all confused. But it's essentially 8 hours if you take the one down to LA. And then if you're in LA, you want to go to San Diego, that's a couple more hours straight down there. San Diego's supposed to be beautiful too. I wish I'd been to San Diego before, but I hear it's a fantastic city. Look at this place. Look how gorgeous that looks. San Diego looks great. Look, they got a little, what is that, SeaWorld? Oh, it is SeaWorld San Diego. Look at that. Ah, Balboa Park. Yeah, California, even in San Francisco. I don't want to focus on like a specific city. Like, I've only been to San Francisco, so I don't want to just give you the San Francisco experience. That is beautiful. I mean, I could probably use its own show. Yeah, I mean, San Diego, beautiful down there. The other thing about California that it's known for is, and I couldn't figure out how to get this here. Trust me, I thought about it. It's a weird state to try to bring food in from. Is their Mexican food is fantastic. Arguably some of the best outside of Mexico. I can't ship in burritos and expect them to be good. Maybe if I talked to Wolfgang Puck, he would have been able to get me some better quality burritos with his pizza. This I'm not sure, but yeah, the Mexican food's supposed to be fantastic. And obviously, the more south you go, the better it is, because you're closer to Mexico. The other thing that is fantastic is California does have a unique cooking combo, at least. They have a cut that they call the tri-tip. The tri-tip, beef tri-tip. It's a tri-tip steak. Santa Maria steak, as they'll call it sometimes. It's 1.5 to 2.5 pounds of meat that comes from the bottom tip of the sirloin. So it's a strange cut, not to turn this into a butchery show, but it's a strange little cut off a larger cut where they would cut sirloin steak. So it's like literally it's a tri-tip. Imagine what it looks like. It looks like a triangle. Come on. But it is it's a mussel, so it's it's a little larger in certain parts and a little bit more. It's a tough piece to cook, is what I'm trying to say here. Okay, and they have their own way to do it. They do it open fire, and they do it with pinto beans. Pinto beans is a huge thing that they do with it. So the tri-tip or the Santa Maria style steak with pinto beans is like a uniquely California thing. I think in the Napa, Sonoma area for sure, they get down on that. You can just imagine being out in the vineyard all day, cutting the leaves, throw some of those trimmings right in the fire, throw that Santa Maria steak on there with those pinto beans. Boom. Makes me think of Rancho Gordo. I'm pretty sure, I want to say, he's based in California. Yeah, I was right. Good. Didn't even look this up. Shoot from the hip here. Napa, California, Rancho Gordo. They are champions of beans. Now, you might say, I told you already, California's all about agriculture, all about dialing in strawberry. Oh, like I said, I'm all over the place. Best strawberry I ever had in my life, roadside in California. Literally on the PCH, I pulled over, some dude was just selling them, ate it. Greatest. I remember how good the strawberry was to this day. Greatest strawberry in my life. And artichokes at the time were being grown everywhere out there. Roadside artichoke dudes, literally just a fucking box of artichokes. Dude going to work with a knife, throwing the trimmings everywhere, and a deep fryer, just frying them, chopping them up, and handing them to you. Well, chopping them up, frying them, and handing them to you. And, yeah, almost as good as the greatest artichoke I've ever had in my life. But, I mean, amazing and delicious. The produce out there and the farming is really, I think, I mean, everyone knows they grow shit, but how good it is and how good it is when you're there is really something special. But that goes to Rancho Gordo, being on the East Coast. You can get some of this stuff dried and sent to you, obviously. They have a copious amount. This isn't an ad. I'm just telling you how good beans can be. I know it sounds crazy. Why am I going to... You might have seen these in the store. Why am I going to buy, $8 bag of beans when the Goya ones right next to it are $1? Well, they're $8 for a reason. They're heirloom beans. They're unmodified. They're untouched. They're obviously growing them with huge, great conditions. I don't know their whole bit. Probably organic. There's great... Then they got to make money. All those things. But the bottom line is, if you got to buy beans, you're going to make beans for your family or people you care about. Rancho Gordo beans are what you want to do. I guarantee you, make yourself some black beans the normal way or any kind of beans of your choice, and then get the Rancho Gordo. This feels like a paid ad. I'm telling you it's not. I don't want to be shilling here. But Rancho Gordo, send me some money. I could use it. Or at least some beans. Definitely send me some beans. That's good. That's going to be money in a few years here. That's fine. Heirloom beans, done the right way, next to some commodity beans, a Goya bean or something like that. There's just, the flavor in the beans is just so fantastic. So hats off to Rancho Gordo for doing the right work out there. It's hard to find heirloom beans and grains. As someone who's making, breads and shit and looking into where to find some grains, it's really tough to find, not adulterated products and stuff like that. So, you can only do so much. So hats off to Rancho Gordo. Keep doing what you're doing. Holler at the chat, everybody in there. I see some banter. Sorry, I was deep in my screen's covering up the chat there. Yeah, so definitely get Rancho Gordo. I'm going to show you some Rancho Gordo beans here. So you know what the packaging looks like. Most of their packaging looks all the same, but I want you to have the eyes on it. It all looks like this. There's like a picture of, I don't know, like a woman's face, just trying to enjoy some beans. Get yourself some Rancho Gordo beans. And these are the pinto beans that they'll do with the Santa Maria steak. I've never had it while I was in California, but yeah, see? I told you, the tri-tip cut is a very strange cut. That's what it looks like after it's cooked. 1 second. Be right back. Ah, yes. No fret, we're back. Just had a production issue, it looked like. Let's see. What time is it? It's almost 7. So yeah, the tri-tip is there. Oh, where did the tri-tip go? There it is. The tri-tip, that's what it looks like when it's cooked. It gets a lot of smoke because you're cooking it on the on an open fire. Maybe I'll talk to Steve about this. I'm sure he knows much about consuming it. I'm not sure his if he's cooked it a lot, but I mean, I think if you live out there and you're a winemaker, you're probably pretty down with Santa Maria steak and pinto beans. Excited. We have lots of his wine we're going to talk to him about. I'm excited to drink the wine and talk to him about the wine. It's very exciting. I'm not going to pop it till he's here, though. I feel like that's the right thing to do. Should be joining any minute. My silly stream setup here, making sure it works. There we go. All right. Fantastic. So, like I was saying, if you want to be truly Californian when the weather's nice outside, get yourself some tri-tip. Go to your butcher. Oh, yeah, that looks good. Go to your butcher. Get yourself some tri-tip cuts and try to cook it right. I mean, you can see how it's a wonky shape, you know, and it's uneven and it's you know, not like brisket, but it's briskety at certain points where it's a, you know, higher concentration of tissue, so it's tougher to cook it and make it tender. Tougher cut to cook, not that tough. You could do it. I believe in you guys. Get in there, kid. Get your head in the game. And you can see the beans. I'm not lying to you. The beans are in the corner of the stock image. It's got to be real. I didn't make that up. All right, let's see here. So we got the beans, we got the tri-tip. What else are we missing? Sourdough bread. We didn't really get into sourdough bread. I mean, sourdough is a big, I don't know. I mean, it certainly didn't start in California, but I think they propagated it enough that they took it over. I think they, you know, I would have to assume that the the gold miners that went west brought sourdough with them because sourdough bread lasts longer on a long trail. Like I said, it gets better with age, so you would bring it with you to your gold mine, I guess. Like, I don't even know. Like, can you imagine gold mining in the 1700s after crossing the country? You're a badass dude if you're doing that. What the hell? I haven't even thought about that till right now. Can you imagine crossing the country, landing somewhere in New York, someone tells you there's free gold over there, the other side of the country, and how far away is it? I don't know. We're not sure. Just keep going. Just keep going. It's like Goodfellas. It's like, no, the dresses are down there. No. Where you going? No. Right there. It's just like that. Let's see how far that drive is with roads. New York to California. Give me the drive time. No, not flight time. We're talking a casual 43-hour drive on a highway. 43 hours in the car on a highway that's been maintained for 100+ years. Not a wagon and your entire family and all your belongings with wood wheels. People were crazy. This is why California people were crazy. If you were gunning for California and you made it, I hope you found gold. What about those people that just settled outside in like Nevada and Arizona and they're just like, we don't want to go. We've already been so long. I don't want to go any further. Let me out here. Call me if you get the gold. These are the loser states. The loser states. The people who couldn't buck it up the last mile. We got to Arizona, got to Nevada, and we're just like, is there really gold out there, Jeff? Are we really gonna get gold, or is this... Is it really gold? They gave up. Losers in those states. And when we visit those states... Well, we did Arizona. When we visit the other states, we will tell them how great they are. I would guess you would pass through Nevada before... if you were going straight shot, but I guess you also didn't have a map. I don't know. I wish I could get a gold miner on from the olden times. Sadly, we didn't get that. We got badass winemaker Steve Mathiasen joining us, not a gold miner. He's decisively not a gold miner. I wonder if there's any like gold mining culture or like reenactment type people out there, since it was such a thing. Like that is definitely a thing. Gold mining in California, that was like definitely a big thing. I don't think I'm too off with that. That's valid. Like a gold miner you know how they do like the Civil War reenactments? They're going to have gold mining reenactments of people in Calistoga wagons and shit like that. I'm willing to bet that exists. Without even knowing, we're going to look it up. Gold mining reenactment. Willing to put money on that. I love being right. It's all the time. That's why I love me. Columbia Diggins. Annual reenactment of an 1852 gold rush tent town. This sounds like a hoot. This sounds fantastic. Can we see these people? Look at these people. Oh boy. Can we zoom? Enhance. Enhance. Wow. Can you imagine going to a gold mining town recreation? I sure can't. I really can't. I don't even know how one would do that. Well, I mean, just look at this. The baking house, the star-spangled... Does that say banner? It does. I thought it was a tavern. They just bought sheds and put signs on them, and then they wear old clothes as an excuse to not shower. Is that what this is? During the early days of the California gold rush, as miners streamed through the undeveloped hills of the Mother Lode, tent and shanty towns sprung up overnight. Saloons, boarding houses, restaurants, laundries. Blah, 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 blah. Tell me what you're doing. I bet you they're making Santa Maria-style steaks. I would hope, with pinto beans from Rancho Gordo. That's what I'm hoping. Park staff and a crew of dedicated volunteers spent hours painstakingly researching the details of daily life of the early tent towns. We'll never know exactly how life was for those early visitors, but we spend a lot of time reading their journals, newspapers, and studying archaeological remains. Well, everyone needs a hobby, so, you know, good on you guys. We salute you, gold miner recreators. At Columbia Diggins Tent Town, 1852, visitors get a chance to wander through the early tent town, enjoy entertainment at the theater, step into the saloon and order a sarsaparilla. Good God. Or browse the authentically recreated Brown's Mercantile. Wow, okay. I mean, if I was out there when that was happening, I would definitely go. I would most definitely go check that out. I want to see those people. I want to hang out with those people. That's like when I want to go to, what I'm trying to do is out here they have like, this has nothing to do with California, but it makes me think of it. They have Renaissance fairs out here. I'm sure you've heard of them. You know, they do like the Renaissance era, similar bit. You know, they go out for days at a time. I want to go with somebody dressed like Doc Brown and Marty McFly in a DeLorean and pull up and cosplay as Doc Brown and Marty McFly pretty much at a Renaissance fair. I don't know which one I would be, but it doesn't really matter. You're just there for the goof and the bit. I think that would be very good. Show up to a Renaissance fair as Doc Brown and Marty McFly and full-on cosplay, don't break character, and go there for 2-3 days. Occasionally run around, blow shit up, you know, like it was a movie. DeLorean necessary, though. Definitely get the DeLorean. But I digress. Let's see, is my meeting up here so old Steve can join? Yes, it is fantastic. Time. Oh, Steve's running a little late. I do have my times right? I think I told him 4. Cali time 4. We confirmed Pacific time. 6 and 3 hours, right? Yeah, okay. Fantastic. Well, production did that. Yeah, the whole production team. Wow. Gold Rush and Pioneers. Stock footage. Stop it. Okay. What is this shit? It's goofy. Some goofy shit. Reenactment of the Gold Rush. I mean, I don't know what's going on here. Oh yeah, the guys would get the pans. Is this what they did when they had when they did that? I don't know what this is, like stock footage. I don't know why it says that on it, but they would just stand there with the pan. So when they went for the Gold Rush, was it all sorting through the pans? Or was it like, did they? I don't know. When I think Gold Rush, I don't think that, but I guess I think that for like cartoons. I don't think that for the Gold Rush. I think people with axes and pickaxes digging in mines and shit, and be like, "Yeah, we found it." That's what I think. I think I'm gonna pop this wine. We hit the time. We hit the magic time. So I'm gonna pop this wine, and hopefully by the time it's open. Oh, look at that! I said I was gonna pop the wine, and Steve joined. That's fantastic. Let's pull him in here. Give me 1 second while we dial in all the tech. Hello? Let me turn off my music here. Is that Steve?
This is. I kept getting a little bit late. Just going over some pruning up here on Mount Veeder.
Oh, that's awesome.
Friend's vineyard.
It's all good. It's all good. I don't want to interrupt your day. What you're doing is more important than this, for sure.
Well, it's all a package deal.
Oh, that's fair. That's a good point. It's a good way to do it. So I'm just dialing this in here so you look good.
I'm a wine history geek also, and so I've been reading a lot of archaeology. Like Patrick McGovern has done some interesting stuff, and it's interesting to see even back 5,000 years ago, there was a whole wine market. It was like wine merchants, AVAs. People were selling wine all over the place. It's always been part of it. It's as old as the viticulture part.
It's a busy job. Someone's got to do it.
Exactly.
Steve, thank you for joining the show. I'm so happy that I get to talk to you and drink some of your. I literally was like, "Oh, what time is it? 7 o'clock." I was like, "Oh, I'll just pop this bottle," and then you joined. So it's magical.
Perfect.
It really is magical. So, like I said, I wanted to get somebody to talk about California on this show. You're from Canada, right? Originally.
Yeah. I grew up in Tucson in Canada. We moved down to Tucson when I was 8.
Okay. So how long have you been in California?
Since I was 18. I'm 51 now, so
you got some California years on you.
I'm basically a Californian at this point. I watched the Bits and Bytes Arizona, and I wanted to chime in so bad for Arizona, but because you relate to where you grew up, even if you lived somewhere else for your whole life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was. They were great. Arizona was a good episode. There was actually great.
I was like, no one eats that cactus candy, by the way. That's for tourists.
I know. When I got it and I opened the package, I looked at it and I was like, this is crap. No one eats this. You can tell by the coloring and everything. But it was fun. I mean, like I said, the interesting thing about it is they actually made that crap back in the day with real cactus, I guess. But that's not what that is. That's not what that shit is.
Yeah, it's talking about bizarre cultural appropriation, I guess, because I bet there was a Native American version of that was delicious.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was getting at with that. I was like, oh, this was good at some point.
Yeah.
But then they ruined it, of course. So I don't even know where to begin. Can you tell me? I want to talk before we even get into wine, because I think once we start talking about wine, it's gonna be wine. And if you got to go at any time, go. I don't want to hold you. I don't want you to feel like you're a hostage here.
No. I'm just good. I might drive to another vineyard though, so
that's cool.
If that's
look, it's fine with me. I just want to get some knowledge from you while you're out there. You got to tap out. You tap out. I don't want to hold you up. So I got a couple of your wines here, but again, I don't want to get in the wine. Let me get some California info from Steve Dyson right now. So you're right in Napa right now, correct?
Yep, I'm up on Mount Veeder.
It looks beautiful.
This is the mountain range that's on the west side of the Napa Valley.
Okay. So
you can kind of look around a little bit. Beautiful up here.
It is. It's snowy out here where I am, so I'm jealous. I'm very jealous.
Oh man, are you kidding me? Look, I'm wearing a t-shirt right now.
Yeah, I know. That doesn't help. Thanks. I just had to shovel a bunch of snow off my fucking front steps.
Well, we're not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be t-shirt weather. This is fiddling before the apocalypse here, but we are enjoying it, even though it's you're this is so wrong.
You got to take it when you can get it. So I'm sure. Have you lived all around California? Have you only lived in Napa?
Well, I went to college in Southern California 4 years, and then I went up north, and I've been in Northern California ever since, which is basically a different state.
That's what I was saying. So I've been to California, visited there, but I never put time in there. So I always like to ask people, in New Jersey at least, when I explain New Jersey, I could kind of break it up into 3 regions. I lived in Jersey all my life. There's North Jersey, there's South Jersey, and there's Central Jersey. There's definitely a difference between all these places, right? So in California, I just look at it as North California and South California, and kind of break it up by wine growers and tech bros in the north, and then South California being kind of like San Diego and up, you know?
There you go.
That's kind of my vibe, but is that like kind of accurate? Do you think that there's more to it in California, or what do you think as someone who lives there?
There is totally more. We're like a microcosm of the country, basically. And so I don't know if everyone knows that California is by far the biggest agricultural state in the country.
We were just talking about that. I'm glad you confirmed my source.
Like other states for agriculture. And we're one of the biggest agricultural regions in the world. And so the whole Central Valley, we call it the Central Valley. It's just a massive valley that to drive from the one to the bottom to the top of it, on the freeway at like 80 miles an hour would take you basically 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, I'm looking at
it's a huge
map. Yeah.
Farming valley. And so like in the Central Valley, we grow like 85% of the almonds in the whole world, for example. You know, it's tree almonds, walnuts, cotton, rice, tomatoes, all these crops. And there's a ton of grapes. So I don't know if, another little stat is that Napa Valley is 4% of the wine in California. So, people think, Napa Valley, you grow all the wine. We grow 4% of the wine in California. So the Central Valley grows the vast majority of the wine, big farms. So all those jugs of wine, all that Franzia, all the $2 chuck,
right?
That's all from the Central Valley. And so that's a big part of the state, right? It's just a big economy. It's massive land-wise. And then we have the Sierras. The Sierra Mountains are, a huge mountain range.
Massive.
You have 14,000-foot peak. We have probably 20 ski areas,
so crazy. So, that's one of the things that I loved about California the first time I was there. I was like, in New Jersey, you got the ocean, and then you just got the rest of the country, to your west. In California, you have the west, you have the beautiful ocean and like diverse kind of beach fronts. And then all the way to the east, the mountain ranges are so beautiful. You have like some of the most beautiful mountain ranges out there. It's such an interesting like mix. And then when you go north to south, it's such a different vibe too in all these places. It's a good way to put it. It's like a microcosm of the country. It covers a lot of ground. California, it's a huge state.
Only we're a microcosm of the country that believes in global warming.
So to that point, I mean, again, I don't want to deep into wine, but Steve Thies is here. We're going to talk about wine. I wanted to ask you about how do you feel like with all the fires and stuff that has been going on out there? Like one of the things I want to ask you was obviously, I mean, you're doing your best to harvest your crops and make the best out of them, right out there. How's it been?
Yeah. And, I mean, I call Napa the big greenhouse because it's this valley that's our weather is fed by the ocean. Very consistent breezes every single day, and then it warms up and so it's just like this unbelievably consistent weather. So, as a wine person, you're always reading about horrible hail in Beaujolais that wipes them out, or some freaking late frost in Germany, or like Burgundy will get a late frost, or they get blasted by some heat wave. And so we're always like, God, like for us, a bad vintage is it rains once or something, during the summer or something. And so like I've kind of like approached fire as like our, shitty thing that is now that, can take us out basically. So now we're on a level playing field with everybody else basically.
Do you think that affects in the long run? Because again, I'm not a winemaker by any means. You're going to have the knowledge. You might even laugh at this question. But do you think that like these fires that in the news, at least I'm seeing like constantly all the time, the smoke damage is going to like affect the terroir of the area in the long term out there?
No, because the smoke, it's actually, the smoke part of it is actually part of our natural cycle. Mm-hmm. And the grapevines don't care. They're forest plants. Nothing care, and any ash that falls on the vineyards is part of the natural cycle. It's just a little bit of nutrients. So there's no like issues, and it doesn't affect us next year. And, it's all, if anything, it's a good thing from a natural cycle standpoint. It's just not supposed to happen so frequently and so intensely,
Right. But
the Native Americans that lived here before used to burn this whole place on a regular basis.
Controlled burns,
so they were experts at it, and and so they did it really well, and everything like, so of course we managed to screw that up and stop all the burning, and it gets too thick. We cut down the big trees and screwed the whole deal up. So now we're paying for it, but it is a normal, natural thing. If we can get back into controlled burns and managing our forest using the indigenous knowledge that still exists here in California, because we didn't think, all the Native Americans weren't. There was terrible genocide here. It's unbelievable, actually. And so, we don't have a lot of Indian reservations in California because they just killed everybody. And so, but there are some, still communities that actually, and they're actually like really want to get back into managing the forest the way they used to. And so I'm kind of hopeful that we can, get over ourselves a little bit, that we could actually get things back into balance again.
If only everyone could just get over themselves. That would be fantastic.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
That would just be great. Just waiting for the day.
do that.
Fingers are crossed. Just everyone get over yourselves. It's fine. We have new people coming in 100 years. Just deal with it. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about like the food scene up in Napa. I dabbled a little bit when I was up there, but I know your wines, at least to me, are super food friendly wines. I mean, I'm drinking right now.
That's the idea.
I'm drinking the Village Cab, this 2018 bottling 2, which I'd be interested to know the difference between 1 and 2, because there's only 2 by me.
Okay. Well, the number 1 was non-vintage, and what we learned that when we do non-vintage wines, we learned that we need to put number 1 or number 2 on there, because we ran into a problem where we did our Schioppettino non-vintage, and then the second time we did it non-vintage, we lost track. We couldn't figure out in the warehouse which was which. And so then we were like, okay, that was stupid. And so now we put number 1, number 2, number 3.
That makes sense. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, you learn the hard way on some of this stuff.
Labeling helps.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what else here. So with the food scene, I was going to say it was a really good food wine, and I think it's really interesting. And like I told you when I first shot an email to you, this is not what a normal Cabernet drinker out here would be drinking. This is not a traditional, bomb of a California cab, which is why I love it. I think it's great for that reason. I don't want overripe, huge fruits. This is like delicate and, lighter ABV, which is like 13 and a half. It's super elegant, but like restrained. It's really tasty, and it's not that kind of bomb. And I think it's super cool that you make wines like that, because at least in Napa out here, people are like, oh, Napa wine. You're immediately, you have a thought when you hear Napa wine. Napa Cab out here has a that's just a thing. Let me have a Napa Cab. That's what people say at a restaurant, And like, I think if you got this, you'd be like, well, this is good, but this isn't that bomb I need. But I love this. This wine's fantastic.
I know. So it's a hand sell in that regard that people have to understand. So we stay away from the big box stores and the big chain places, because, our market is places where a wine shop where the person knows they're regular and says, you're always buying. I know you love these Bordeaux's.
Right.
I think you'll trip out if you try this one from Napa. And so, and same thing, like, so like a small restaurant that they really care about their food sourcing and people expect to discover some new wine. We kind of have to be there, because, like we'll get a bad review on Cellar Tracker when someone's expecting the fruit bomb, and they read about us somewhere and they go, oh, I'll try that one. And
right.
Like, whoa, is this even Cabernet? And it's like, no, this is actually Cabernet. That other stuff is prune juice, but anyways, that's what you're used to.
Prune juice is a good way to put it. I'll ask you like a surface like kind of wine question, just to get your thoughts on. I have a couple of your wines here, because I went to the store, they had them, and I was like, well, I'm going to get them while I can get them. I have the 2017 white that you have, which has a really interesting grape in it. I was going to ask you something else, but the Ribolla Gialla, am I pronouncing that even right?
Well, I don't know how to pronounce it right, but we say Ribolla Gialla.
Ribolla Gialla. Like, I think you did, I want to say when I was looking at the website, you did 100% version of that, correct?
We do the 100% version. We do in the ultra traditional, like whole cluster orange wine method.
I want some of that.
We've been doing that since 2008.
Send New Jersey that, please.
Yeah,
this is a blend.
Yeah,
this is a blend.
New Jersey, Amani Vino usually has a good selection of our wines up in Montclair.
All right, let me write that down there. Nice. I got these near me at Court Liquor. They're fantastic. Like that. I also got the just the 19 Chardonnay, because they had it, and I had this in my fridge already. This is probably the first Messiah that I had. This is the rosé. A friend of mine brought it over once, and then we just started, we're nerding out on like natural, nerdy wines and digging it, and we got deep into it. But like I said, the surface question I just wanted to ask you was like, what are your thoughts on like organic? Because you're obviously a viticulture master. You don't just do your own winemaking and your own vineyard care. You're hired, in all these great prestigious kind of Napa places, and I'm sure all around California, to survey and help out. So what are your thoughts on like the idea of organic viticulture versus like natural versus like a biodynamic? Because these are like buzzwords out here in restaurants out here. Like people know what they are, but what do you think about them?
All right. So organic. So I guess there's like sustainable, organic.
Right.
Sustainable is like there's a lot of these certifications. One of them I helped write back in 1999, which is like a sustainable thing. And the idea there is get a little more science based and evaluate every single chemical and also get outside just the chemicals, but what's your erosion like? What's some of your labor practices, stuff like that. And that's the sustainable certification. But just on the chemical. So it's a good thing. And so I would advocate that if a lot of people like question, is sustainable really good? Is it greenwashing? And I would say supports the stuff that's certified sustainable. It's not all the way, but it's
a step
in the right
closer,
direction.
right? Yeah, it's a step closer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. Organic is really around pests and pesticides and fertilizers, and they need to be natural sources, not synthetic sources. That's what organic is.
Mm-hmm.
So and there's a legal term, actually. You cannot use that term for your product unless you're certified.
Which costs a lot of money.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's actually not that bad. A lot of people use that as an excuse, actually.
Interesting.
So we're certified, or we're fully certified organic, and we probably spend about $5,000 a year on our certification.
Interesting, because I've always heard from places like, oh, we don't get that because it costs too much. There's too much restrictions.
Yeah,
like maybe we want to do something without.
It depends on the size of your business. I mean, the thing is, organic, it's scaled to the size of your business. So
that's fair.
So yeah. I think I'm going to call that an excuse, basically.
I think I'll side with you and checkbox the excuse of that.
Yeah. And so we're certified organic, but organic is science-based. It's always been science-based, and so when I say science-based, I mean use ecological principles. We, like counting. There's principles of ecology. Counting bugs, populations, population dynamics, biological control, nutrient movement in the soil, And so biodynamics is like its own thing totally, right? Biodynamics is like they follow the moon phases and the constellations, cosmic rays. So I'm going to say that that's a belief system.
Right.
And so it's very important for people to understand that biodynamics is not organic next step. It's a different thing.
I feel like it's I feel like that's the word is. I see it on bottles. I hear people say it a lot, and it's just like it's like another adjective almost, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's not a binary thing. It's not.
No, it's not binary, and it's not like the next step past organic. It's its own trip. And so I have a lot of friends that are really into biodynamics. I think that's super cool. For me personally, I'm more of an empirical science guy. Right. And I want to and I think that I get a lot of satisfaction out of healthy ecosystems and planting plants that'll attract beneficial insects, and that's kind of more my trip.
Totally. No, I'm with you on that. Like that's a much more interesting side to me. And I'm not a viticulture guy, but I like the idea that there's someone out there like you that's doing the work and going, no, this is how we're going to make this taste this way, and dig it in the soil and making adjustments like that. Well, stuff.
You'd be surprised how many of because I work for a lot of like the cult wineries, and and all of my clients pretty much are organic. It's really, I think, accepted that part of making great world-class wine is organic farming. Because the plant with organic farming, the idea is you feed the soil, not the plants, which means like compost. It's not, you're not injecting fertilizers, for example. The plant has to work for what it's getting, and that with the plant working, it's making more flavorful grapes.
Right. You make the product better by making its home better, essentially.
Making it work for a little bit. Like it's like sitting someone on the couch and putting them in an IV versus they go hunt for their food.
Right.
Who's going to be in better shape?
Obviously, the hunter, of course. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But we got a sidetrack because I had to ask you a question. But tell me about that grape I wanted to get into, the Ribolla.
Oh yeah, Ribolla Gialla.
Because I've only had it in the blend here, which is delicious, but I couldn't. It's hard to identify. So tell me about the single.
Well, it's like 1,000 or so year old variety at least. It's grown in Friuli, Italy. It's a white grape. It's really nutty, really kind of saline, very savory kind of white grape. It's not it never really took off as an international variety, even though it's really old. And I guess it's because it's just not fruity. It's idiosyncratic, a little hard to grow.
Right.
But has a lot of history in Friuli. So for everyone in Friuli, it's like the top of the Adriatic Sea, so north of Venice. Mm-hmm. And they also grow it in Slovenia, so it kind of spans over the beginning of Eastern Europe. And in Friuli, that culture is kind of like Italy meets Eastern Europe, kind of, and the cuisine as well. A really great restaurant, Bobby Stuckey, restaurant Frosca in Boulder is Friulian food. And so that's a great wine program for wines from Friuli. It's world-class wine region.
Sounds delicious.
And has been for a long, long time.
Yeah, I've had some Friuli wines, but I've never heard of the varietal.
Yeah, so that's really one of the areas in Italy and Italy was probably one of the very first areas in that part of Europe to go back to making the orange wines with like Grosvenor and Radicon. So like Grosvenor went back to Georgia where they were still doing the skin fermented stuff and the amphoras and brought amphoras back to Friuli back in the 90s. And so that was really like early in like bringing orange wine back again, that because for some reason orange wine had died off. And through some, like, I think it was through the post-World War I kind of modernization, and so looking for export markets, less regionalism, and it just kind of died off. But orange wine is such a food, it's for food pairing, it's like amazing, because it fills a niche that other wines don't fill, because you have the tannin and body, but you don't have the red fruits.
I'm a big fan of orange wine. We're getting a lot more of it out here on the East Coast from a lot of places on the East Coast also making it now. And there's some good ones, some bad ones, but it's a great wine. And like you said, it's definitely a great food wine because it just pairs beautifully. It pairs beautifully out the gate on most things. So it's really cool.
Yeah. It's like a nice go-to for like, what the hell am I going to have with that?
Yeah, it's like, well,
maybe you could go Riesling or you could go orange wine. You know who on the East Coast who makes a really good orange RebelVisionTV actually is Channing Daughters on Long Island.
Channing Daughters, I've had some of this stuff. My shout out to my friend Steve, who always brings some stuff back from them. Fantastic wines out at Channing Daughters. Yeah. So we actually have correspond a little bit because they have the same love of RebelVisionTV and the varieties from Friuli. That's great. I'm glad you shot that. He's going to be happy to hear that you said that. You're making a vermouth out there now too, right? I was wishing to find it out here, but of course I couldn't. But tell me a little bit about that because I'm big into cocktails, so I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm gonna have vermouth. How are you guys making that out there?
Okay, well, so basically it's for our vermouth is a farmhouse vermouth. Right. So it's basically the base wine is a lot of the flavor. Like more the industrial vermouths, they want a very neutral base wine, and they layer their flavors on there because they want looking for consistency. When if you think about like vermouth, it's made from wine, right? Yeah. It's wine with herbs added, but yet there's no vintage variation, and so so they're looking for that consistency. So ours is like farmhouse style in the sense that's why we label our vermouths different because every batch is a little bit different because it's not for us. We embrace the fact that it's a little different every year because everything grew different every year. But the base wine is Flora. It's a California grape. It's so California. We have UC Davis. So the two sort of preeminent viticulture programs in the country are Cornell and Davis. And there's very much a connection between Cornell and Davis. So I went to Davis, and basically, you'd read papers. It's like Cornell is like the sister school, basically, for the East Coast. And so both Cornell and Davis both have the breeding programs for it, long-running breeding programs for grapes. Right. So coming out of Prohibition, California was mostly fortified wines. Like, we were California sherry, California port, all these California vermouths. And so, that really up until like the 60s, dry wines kind of took over, but we were like sweet fortified wines with a lot of our industry. What's the Thunderbird would be like a classic old throwback of like the like post Prohibition, right? And so Flora was bred for making sweet wine. So they crossed Gewürztraminer and Semillon. And so then when the market fell out, it never got any traction, but the variety tastes like an aged Sauternes right while you're fermenting. Right. It's unbelievable.
Wow, that's cool. What a good angle. That's smart.
It's a cool grape. And so we picked that really late. It's the only thing we pick late.
Let it get super ripe.
So we get it raisin, botrytis. And we ferment it whole cluster because we love like Banyuls, like a nice tannic, raisiny dessert wine. And so we ferment it whole cluster, and then we age it for like several years in barrels, partial barrels with no SO2, so it gets super nutty. Oh man! And that's our base wine. Then we have sour cherries. We grow blood oranges. We zest up the blood oranges. We have cardoons, which is like a wild artichoke, that's a bittering that's in cardamaro, and we extract all that stuff in high proof alcohol. We have access to really good high proof alcohol in Napa because, as you know, people reduce the alcohol in their wines. Right. It's like one of the practices. And so you can buy that alcohol.
Napa knows how to party. There's no question about that.
We do.
I mean, Napa
know how to party. So we get our 170 proof alcohol that's been taken out of someone else's wine, and we buy barrels of it, and then we can make all our extractions. And then we every 2 or 3 years, usually every 3 years, we have a 3-year non-vintage on our vermouth because the complexity of the 3 different years of aging really goes together real well. Kind of nutty, kind of balanced, kind of fruity. The 3 vintages. Put our extracts in there and bottle it up basically, And we drink it neat. We like it with dessert, or we like it make a spritzer. But I'd say most people make Manhattans.
I was gonna
with
say,
it. Some people make Negronis.
Sounds like a Manhattan for sure. I would want with that, but even then I would want like a weak bourbon or something. I would want something just like a focus. I just want to drink it neat. I just want to drink that neat. I don't want to put anything else in there.
We drink it neat, but yeah, people do it, or like they'll do like some kind of super upscale cocktail if it's in a restaurant program with like a craft gin and a craft Campari alternative, and call it like the Baller Negroni or something.
I mean, that sounds great. I mean, I definitely got to get my hands on some of that vermouth. But let me ask you, so you're in Napa now all the time, right? So where do you go? What's your like Tuesday night? I'm going out to eat. I got to get some food. I mean, you got a farm, you got the whole situation. But if you're getting food out, like what do you eat? Not like a restaurant, but like what kind of food?
Because we basically grow most of our own food. We haven't, with COVID, we haven't been to a grocery store in probably 6 weeks.
Wow.
Because we'll buy a whole animal for someone and stick it in the fridge. We grow all of our own vegetables. We grow corn. We grow, like cornmeal, polenta, tortillas. Mm-hmm. We grow our own beans. So there is that. But we live in it. The crazy thing about Napa is it's a food and wine destination. Totally. And so we have. There's some pretty insane restaurants for how big we are.
You can eat anything out there. It is a weird like microcosm. So what about, let's go back to your SoCal days when you were down there. Like what would you just like what's like the vibe of like a Southern California?
Tacos.
Tacos, right? We were talking about tacos.
Tacos up here though. Tacos is what North and South have in common. I mean, the Napa Valley is like 45% Hispanic.
Sure.
So we have, it's mostly from, most of the people here from Mexico are from one or two regions. Mm-hmm. So we don't, I wish we had more Oaxacan food because I love Oaxacan food, but we have really good food from Michoacan here. And so there's a lot of good Mexican food.
Delicious.
It's part of like our whole deal.
Yeah, I think California just all around is generally great Mexican food for sure. What what are you drinking? I'll ask you as like a winemaker, wine expert, pro. What are you drinking that isn't yours, like on a Tuesday?
No, well, we don't drink our own wine. Because you can get cellar palate, and then your wines start getting weird.
What a great don't get high on your own supply. That's the basic rule.
Yeah, you need when you taste your wine, your own wine, you need to have a clear head that and still have context of wines, right? And so we, part of setting the table for us, you mentioned our wine is food wine.
Yeah.
So when we set the table, we put a wine glass down. There's 7 days a week. I have friends here that make the big rich cabs, and they're like, I only drink wine every other week or something. I get too tired. I'm like, that's because you're making the wrong freaking wine and you're drinking it. You haven't gotten the memo. Wine is a beverage. It's a liquid.
Yeah.
And so, it's crazy that we sometimes forget that wine's a liquid.
Yeah.
We had a master of wine from Japan come visit us, and he was tasting the wine, and so he started in sake, and he became master of wine.
Sure.
And he's like, I can taste the purity of the water in your wine. He goes, in California wine, normally I can't taste the water.
Right.
And the only reason because I'm a sake fan too, so I knew what he was saying, because with sake, part of appreciating it is tasting that water.
Yeah, the cleanliness of it is a big part.
Yeah, and they wanted, and some of the water is more minerals than others, and that's part of the flavor profile is that this is a liquid carrying flavor, and I really think like that with our wine, because we want the wine should slake your thirst. And I say that word "should" very intentionally, because there's a historical reason for wine, and it loses its purpose if it's just so freaking heavy that it doesn't make food taste good or refresh you, or give you energy.
A lot of people like to just use it to like kind of blow out the palate, like that's what it seems. It's almost like, when you have ginger to cleanse your palate between some pieces of sushi or something. It's like sometimes with those huge bombs, you try it, you're like, I don't even know what's happening here. It's like I'm eating a mouthful of jelly sometimes. It's a bit much.
And so we drink. So what's going on in California is that there's a whole revolution of young winemakers that are making wines that they care about, and they don't give a shit what the critics are saying, which is very much a change from when I got started in the business.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the wine we drink is from our friends that we trade wine, or we just want to see what's going on. Or support our friends, whatever. So we drink a lot of, we could be drinking Rhyme or Barnard Roberts or Idlewild or Brock or Scar of the Sea, Donkey and Goat. I mean, it's endless. Maitre de Chez. There's so many like exciting small winemakers in Napa in California right now that's a lot of what we drink at the house. Mm-hmm. or we want to learn and we want to just enjoy. So we're drinking a Chinon or a Beaujolais or a, something from Etna or something from Friuli, Ribolla, or we don't tend to drink. I just don't go for the big. We rarely drink Barolo because again, it's on the big side for us.
That's a big wine. Well, Barolo goes good with like a big steak or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, but if I'm going to go Piedmont, we're normally drinking Dolcetto.
That's fair. Oh,
or like Pala Verga or something.
Dolcetto's delicious. Speaking of big steak and meals, before you joined, I was just talking about tri-tip and pinto beans, which as being like a Santa Maria steak being just like a huge thing in California.
Santa Maria, our barbecue dates back to the Spanish.
Yeah, so tell me, like, I'm sure you've eaten plenty of Santa Maria barbecue, with your fire of your own vineyard, sitting next to you, your own grapevines. I just want to hear about it. It sounds so exciting.
Over the grapevines. Oh man, that's how I should actually. Maybe I'll drive back down so I can show you the house a little bit. But we whenever we have dead vines, we pile it up, and then we have a fire ring. Yes. We have a $13 Walmart grate, and that's how we cook most of the time if we're cooking outside.
It's best.
So so you just raise it up and down Asador style, which basically Santa Maria is just a low tech Asador because you're cooking over flame, not so much coals, and you're just changing the height to regulate temp,
adjusting it, right?
Yeah, and we do fish because because we're in Northern California, we have phenomenal salmon, as you can imagine. Of
course.
And local fish like little sand dabs, so those you fry.
You guys eat and drink very well
we get
out
like
there.
Anchovies, sardines. Right now there's a herring run going on.
Ooh.
And then a lot of that stuff you just throw it on a little skillet and put it over the fire.
Just give it a little thing, yeah.
Oh, it's great. You get the smoke in there and
see, that's the thing. You get to have good smoke because you got the grapevines that you're smoking off of, so it adds its own the terroir of the fire you're getting, which is crazy. Like out by me, out in New Jersey, I'm just burning whatever firewood I have. Who knows what this is? I'm not getting any natural local flavor. I'm just getting.
You kidding me? New Jersey's beautiful state, man. Every time I go to New Jersey, I'm like, God damn, this place is beautiful.
There is beautiful spots. I mean, it gets a bad rap. There are some great spots, but the food and drink needs a little polishing for sure. It's not like it's California, but it does have some highlights, that's for sure. I don't just shit on it all the time. I'm not using grapevines in my backyard to make fires, but maybe that's my fault. You're breaking.
90 acre place.
You're breaking up a pinch. You saying 90 acres?
Yeah, New Jersey.
Yep. They're there.
It was.
Oh, you're getting choppy. Sorry, Steve. Must be because you're in your car. Just taking a ride with Steve is all.
I'm back. Call you right.
Yeah, sure. Hop back in. Sure. Steve's got to take a trip down.
Yeah, I'll show you where this is at Mount Vita. I'm going to see if I can set this phone real quick.
There we go. You're back. I see you now.
There we go.
Yeah.
This is the road to Mount Vita.
Oh, nice.
This is both sides of on the. So you basically get up through all these old bays. There's great mushrooms up there, porcinis and chanterelles and stuff. And you get up through there, and then and then you get to the vineyards up on top of Mount Vita.
That's crazy. You make me want to get back out to California.
You got all these ferns and stuff.
It's beautiful. I wish.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get down this little road. I'm gonna lose you, and I'll call back in 5 minutes.
All right, that's fine. We'll be here. Go down. Steve's gonna join back in 5 minutes. We'll have a great chat with Steve. Where's the music? Bring that music back. Just hanging out with Steve, talking wine is all. He's going to call back at 5. I got a couple more questions for him. Wow, beautiful out there. Jealous. I wish I was out in California now. How great is he? I want to party with Steve. It's like, I don't drink my own wines. Why would you ask me that? Why look like I want to burn my palate out on my own juice? Dope. You keep buying it. Smart. What a smart dude. That guy knows wine. That's great. Very exciting. Yeah, that guy knows a lot of wine. He's it's hard to keep up with someone who knows that much wine, but he's such a down-to-earth, chill dude. Excited to chat with him. I'm gonna ask him a little bit about the food. We did the food of Southern California. I'm gonna ask him a little bit about the Tendu wines that he was involved in that I drank about. I'm gonna nerd out on wine a little bit. I should pull it back and ask a little bit about food stuff. I'm going to ask him about, that's definitely what we're going to ask him. We're going to ask, he was saying that he gets whole animals from local farms. This is very Napa-centric, you know, but it's okay because that's who we're talking to. It's his experience. But the whole farm and the farming thing goes hand in hand since California's so big on agriculture. So having a whole animal, which is something I love doing when I can do it, is great. So I want to ask him about his Tendu wine for sure, because I think those are great liter bottles, great values. And I wanted to ask him about getting the whole animal and his tri-tip cooking points, because clearly he cooks a lot of tri-tip. I didn't know what his experience was going to be. Obviously, he's eating it out there, but I didn't know if he was crushing it. But clearly, he's probably a tri-tip expert. We're going to get his tri-tip, Steve Mathiassen's tri-tip cooking points coming right up. Oh, it's exciting. It's great talking to people from other states. It makes me very happy. I miss traveling. I wish I was just in California right now, talking to this dude, hanging out in his vineyard. This wine's great, though. So this is, if you could get your hands on this, I highly recommend getting some of it. It's Mathiassen Napa Valley 2018 Village Cabernet Sauvignon. They have another Cabernet. It's a little bit more expensive, but that's not this. This one's a little bit less. Bottling number 2, like I said, it's not a cab like you think of a Napa cab. It's elegant. It's like 13%. It doesn't taste like it's 13%. It doesn't blow your mouth out. To say what he just said, I can taste the water in it, which is a new term that I'm going to be saying for all the wines that I drink. I just say my man Steve told me about that. I taste the water in this. It's fantastic. But this is a style, and we could expound on this with him a little bit more. I read a little bit about it, because when I drank this, it's like, this doesn't drink a normal cab, and then I read about the grapes, and, you know, I know about cab, but I'm no pro. But if you know about wine and California Cabernets, at least, in 1972, 76, 70-something, that's when California won the Tasting of Paris or Judgment of Paris, whatever it was called, the worldwide wine competition they have every year. And California came in dick first and brought all their big baller wines and put them up against the bad boys of France. And California came out number 1, and that's when California was put on the map for having some of the world's greatest wines. It's called the Tasting, or it's here somewhere. I wrote it down, I'm sure. Judgment of Paris. The Judgment of Paris, 1976. That's when the California wine was born, essentially, because we defeated Paris. They were pissed. They got some guy kicked out. There's a whole, I'm sure there's documentaries about it, but that's when California got big. And California was big on wine in the world ever since then. And then they changed. This is that style of Cabernet. From what I've read, it's a little bit more lighter, a little bit more delicate, as opposed to what it is now, the super sweet, you know, juice bombs. You know, like Steve said, we're growing prunes. It's hilarious. We talked a little bit about natural wine, organic viticulture with him. We talked a little bit about biodynamic wine with him. I was going to ask him about yeasts. What else we got? Yeah, definitely want to ask you about the Santa Maria and the Pinto beans, because I don't get to talk to a lot of people who have their own farms in California that throw down like that, and he's the guy I want to get some pointers from. Something tells me the scientific brain has pulled out the best way to cook some tri-tip for people like me who don't know how to do it right. I mean, I've cooked it before, and it came out pretty good, but let's give me that pro knowledge. I want to know what you're doing on the Napa, on the Napa, burning our grapevines. Wish I had grapevines to burn cook my steaks over. Really slacking. Also should pick this up. This should be higher, or I should get my arcing thing in. I thought the arm was a bit much. You know, when it was here, it was blocking our flag. The beautiful flag of California, by the way. I didn't even mention this. Usually, first come out the gate and talk about the flag. I didn't say a word about this stupid flag. And we didn't even talk about the California Republic. There's another, like, good content right there. The California Republic flag, everyone. There's a bear on it and 1 star. Not quite sure why. And it says California Republic, and that's because I believe it was a republic before it became a state. And that's some facts. The California Republic, or Bear Flag Republic, was an unrecognized breakaway state from Mexico. that for 25 days in 1846 militarily controlled an area north of San Francisco in and around what is now Sonoma County. Okay. Okay. The name California Republic appeared only on the flag the insurgents raised in Sonoma. Oh, so this is like the, what's his name? Che Guevara. Am I saying his name right? What's the Che flag? Che Guevara. I was right. I said Guerrero. Sue me. The name California Republic appeared only on the flag the insurgents raised. It indicated their aspiration of forming a Republican government under their control. Oh, you got it. You got it. Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Republican, ran your state for a very long time. You got the Republican control, guys. So I guess that's why they kept that as the flag. There's a bear. And again, this is the second state to write their name on the flag. Who did we make fun of last time? Arkansas? Was it Arkansas who wrote their name on the flag? I thought that was a weird flex. Very strange flex. Putting the name on the flag. I don't want to disparage them. Can we look that up real quick? I'm pretty sure Arkansas. Yeah, it says Arkansas, the flag. It's a weird flex. I thought the point of the flag was to like look at it and identify and be like, oh, yes, that's the... I'm getting the vibe of the state from the flag. Not... Oh, what's it say? Oh, we're in California. Okay, I see the bear. We got a lot of bears here? No? Oh, okay. What's up with the bear, then? Why is it on the flag? Those gold miners are weird. Ah, Steve's calling in again. Let's get him in here. I can't see him yet. But I think he's coming up. I hear you.
Challenges here. Here we go.
It's
It's
all
going to
good.
take me 1 sec.
Yeah, take your time. I ain't going nowhere. I'm sipping on your wine right now, so it's fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Hey, you're back.
Now Peter at my own place.
Oh, look, you got palm trees. Just jealous.
Yeah. California is where the palm here.
Oh, man.
Palm trees,
I'm moving. I'm
vines, olive trees. That's how you know you're in California.
Steve,
and then if you look over here, redwoods.
It's unbelievable agriculture out there. I mean, the nature that I've seen in the minimal time I've spent in California is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, yes, but you're in Northern California when palm trees meet redwoods.
Yeah, I mean that's the best. You are in the most California then. You're getting the best of both.
Yeah. Look at those guys.
Damn. How old are those guys?
I don't know, maybe 100.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're babies.
They are babies.
I mean, look at these trunks. I mean, that's the trunk right there.
Oh my
Look at this bark.
God.
That's the redwood.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is a young one looking at it. I've been to the Redwood National Park, and drove through it, and that'll blow your mind if you've never been there.
Oh my God.
I mean, you've been there, obviously. I'm talking to other dopes.
Yeah. That's so. Look at that trunk, man. That is so
That's
California.
insane. That's so You're right. That is so California.
Love this place.
Well, I'm glad you love it, dude. I'm glad you're doing the right thing out there. It makes me happy. Oh, here's the fire pit.
So there's the fire pit. So that's where the cooking all goes down. That little grill right like that.
That's it. That's the
You
one.
can just you take it and you set it up, and you can put it like this on the side there, and kind of work with your temperature a bit.
Right.
And then right over here is where we have our pile of vines. So here's the wood.
Oh, you're set.
So these are all this dead vine trunks. You can here's the dead vine trunk. You can kind of see how it used to go with a T.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that's the graft union right down there.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's gonna add great flavor to a steak, I'm sure. They burn.
Yeah,
they burn hot.
The oak too. The barrel staves let me see if I don't think any barrel staves over here, but for the when I use the smoker, we use barrel staves, and that really adds the flavor.
Oh, I'm sure.
The oak with the wine.
Oh, that's crazy. I'm jealous. I'm very jealous of your setup. It's all a product of the farm, and it's great. You're using all the products again. How do those grapevines burn? Do they burn hot and fast, or are they more of a longer thing?
They burn medium heat and fast. There's a lot of air inside there.
Okay. That's a good thing, though, for a long cook, on a tri-tip.
Yeah, you can control it really nicely. You just kind of feed one in, and you're not committing to a bunch of heat.
Yeah, no, that's good for especially tri-tip. I've only cooked it a couple times, but everyone's like, oh, it's so hard to cook. It's not that hard, but it's you just got to keep an eye on it.
God, it's a weird cut tri-tip. You know, it's I don't think, do they even do that anywhere other than California?
I mean, out here it's called a Santa Maria steak in butcher shops and tri-tip, and when I see it, I know what it is. But it has the stigma of being a very uniquely California thing. It is delicious. I don't know why California gets a whole cut of meat, but you know,
and it really soaks up the smoke flavor.
It's a weird cut because it's like really thick with like a lot of like fibers in one part, and then the other part's a little lean. So it's like
and the slicing is key. You got to go. You got to go against the grain on that one.
Yeah,
you got to cook it slow so it keeps the juiciness. But then it's really awesome.
And you have to have your obligatory pinto beans with it. I think isn't that the thing?
You got to have pinto beans. Yeah, right.
What's with the pinto? Why does it always have to be pinto beans?
You know, that's a weird thing. The pinto beans. That's so the funny. So yeah, it's like. I don't know where pinto beans got started here in California. Why? Because that dates back to the Spanish.
Yeah, that's why
the Spanish. It's these weird like layers that overlaid because like everything, the gold rush changed so much here in California.
Right.
And then you've had other layers like you had like the '60s, everyone moving, all the hippies, everyone from the entire country that was like. Had hippie inclinations. That's another wave here, and so that changed us so much. I mean, so much of the culture of what this place is now, and so there's all these waves. It's kind of like what this place is. But you described as like funny how like Arizona people didn't have work a little bit in the lazy to make the last push.
Right.
But I always think of like California as like we're like because like part of being American is feeling like your ancestors were starving, so they got off their ass and came here,
right.
And their cousins didn't and stayed back and starved, basically. So you feel a little bit proud, like we're the people that got off their ass and came here. And then California, well, they came here and they were in Boston or they were in wherever, and they're like, "God, this place sucks too," because I want to go someplace I can be a little bit be my own person, and they came to California, so it's like a second filtering,
right,
to come out here.
Yeah, it's out. Yeah, our ancestors got over themselves and said, "We got to keep it moving. We got to get out of this crap."
Yeah, we got to get the hell out of here. This sucks too,
What am I looking at? What kind of plant is there? What is that I'm looking at?
These are artichokes.
Oh yeah.
And so this is the purple kind that you get a lot in Italy. You can see it's pretty different leaf shape than this one. This is the globe style.
Okay.
Which, by the way, that we grow most of the artichokes in the country here in California. There's like one town, Castroville. It's like the Napa Valley of artichokes.
The first time
they have the perfect climate.
That had to be where I went because the first time I was in California, I was driving through. I went to Gilroy. I had a bunch of garlic. I was like, "This is amazing garlic."
Oh, yeah.
I had some roadside strawberries somewhere. Literally the greatest strawberry of my life.
And then Watsonville. That's where they do that.
I don't know. And then I had artichokes at a roadside stand, and I was like, "This is the greatest artichoke I've ever had." It just blew my mind in one quick couple hours. I was just driving around.
Yeah, well, where you were, that's like we have Gilroy is an entire town that has like this sandy soil and perfect climate, and it became like the garlic capital of the country. And then you go over that hill towards Monterey, and you get into this super sandy, and that's what the strawberries like. And then Castroville is like right by the ocean, and so it's perfect mild climate. So you can do year-round artichokes. They're not seasonal as much there.
Crazy microclimates all throughout California, man. That's really nutty.
The microclimates here, I mean, just growing here, like having kids, our kids are both grown up now, but like having them in sports. Anywhere in the Bay Area, basically the deal is you always have a jacket and a sun hat in your car.
Just in case.
Because you have no freaking idea what the weather's going to be like a half hour away. It could be 30 degrees one way or the other.
Right.
The microclimates are crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
This is the garden.
It's great. I wish my garden looked like that now. I can't make
this area is all kind of harvested, but here's our garlic, and onions and stuff. And there's the barn.
I wish my garlic looked like that. My garden stinks. Steve, you got to come out and help me with my garden. I think I need to.
Right.
I'll trade spots with you. You come. You stay at my place. I'll stay at your place for a month. We'll get the garden set up. I'll cut you'll prune the leaves.
You have to move out to California. You want to get a good garden.
Yeah, I really do.
See that? That's an avocado tree.
Wow, that's a big one. I've only seen people attempt to grow them and fail.
Yeah, this thing here is really old. I don't know how old this tree is, but it actually can handle the frost, and it's covered. We loaded with avocados.
How many avocados do you pull off that tree usually?
Every year, probably 200 or 300.
Damn. That's
Yeah,
insane.
it's crazy. You're just like, I'm gonna have one bite of this avocado, just throw it out. Fuck it, who cares?
I'm spoiled by the avocado tree.
Yeah.
Oh my
And then you
God,
have the
dude.
lemons.
Oh wow.
It's nice to come out and grab a lemon and make a cocktail.
Yeah, of course it is. It's amazing. California really is. I mean, especially after these other states that don't have a lot of agriculture, it's nice to see this. Not a lot of great growing things out there. How many? Oh, nice tractor. How many?
Yeah, this is the John Deere. This is another friend. So this is if you guys know Hobo Wine Company, Kenny.
Oh, yeah.
So that's his little sticker. His day job. So that's so California because his day job is he's a voice actor for like adult cartoons.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that character.
Not
before.
Hobo. I mean, not Hobo. Sorry, Habit.
Habit.
I said that wrong. Habit Wine Company.
Well, I knew what the
Kenny.
sticker was, so I was assuming it was him.
Yeah. So this crazy thing is like one of our sprayers.
Oh man.
So the air comes out there and because for organic farming you still have to spray. So we spray like sulfur and organic stuff,
Sure.
compost teas and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
yeah. And so there's some vines, grapefruits. Look at that puppy.
Wow.
Thing's freaking massive.
What kind of grapefruit is that? It looks like a little yellow.
That's called it's an Oro Blanco. It's a cross between a grapefruit and a pomelo.
Oh wow. Yeah, it has a pomelo
What's-
shape. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, it's so giant.
Damn, that's massive.
And there's the Meyer lemon.
Oh man.
Just see that wonderful glow in there. That was a Lisbon lemon on the other side. This is the Meyer.
It's nice to have multiple kinds of lemons growing in your yard. I mean, that's just
Sometimes
fantastic.
you're looking for that bright acidic pop from the Lisbon, and sometimes you want the floral aromatics from the Meyer.
Yeah, they have their place. It's nice to have multiple lemons. It's nice to know how to,
exactly.
It's nice to be a viticulture expert.
Satsumas,
Oh yeah.
and then these are old line Washington navels.
And you get
You can see the navel in there.
oh wow. All of this in February also. Lucky you. Making me very
Yeah.
jealous how
So-
cold it is here.
So these vines are. This is Rebola gel.
Oh
These
nice,
vines.
we're here. Ah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at this.
So this is Rebola. This is our cover crop because we're organic. We're trying to get there's a new certification now for regenerative organic, and we're really into that. So
What do you use
look
for
down
cover?
here.
I can't tell what that is. What do you-
these look like a bunch of green grasses, right? But
Sure.
it's actually these are California native grasses. So
Oh,
they're
nice.
evolved for our climate. And so, they're evolved for our rainfall. We get all our rain in the winter. In the summer, this is golden, looks dead as a doornail. It's golden, dry.
Right.
We don't get any rain here literally no rain from basically April through November.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why, the wine is what it is. It doesn't get rained on. Why it's so
so
rich
dry
and
arid, yeah.
concentrated. But the native grasses, they just go to sleep and then they sprout up again and they just come to life again when the rains start. So their roots go down about 8 feet deep in the ground. And so unlike a regular grass, it's maybe down like 2 feet or 3 feet. And so they're amazing for like sucking CO2 out of the air and burying it deep into the ground.
Yeah, for like
So
reserves,
it's like,
right?
yeah, so it's a big part of like regenerative agriculture is having perennial grasses, deep-rooted grasses.
It makes so much
And these are
sense.
adapted our climate.
When I read a little bit about cover crops for my small, pitiful garden that's in my yard, cover crops are like, it makes so much sense to do that when you read how it works. And again, you're an expert, I'm not, so even talking to you about it seems silly. But it makes so much sense. Like, why isn't this just the way that we're doing things? Like, why are there other means? It seems like this is the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, it's like we got off. There's a lot of just like knowledge on how to make it work that's not that rocket sciencey, but unfortunately we kind of went down post World War II, went down the better living through chemistry route. And so a lot of this is trying to like figure back out what we already knew. Like I have a big collection of old agriculture books that date back, like 1800s, early 1900s agriculture books. And they all, this is like regular straight ahead books put out by the USDA and stuff that tell you how to do everything with cover crops.
Right.
Because back then that's how they had to do it. They didn't have weed killers and, chemical fertilizers and stuff. And so it's like, we have like 60 years in our 10,000 year farming tradition of using all the chemicals. And you forget so fast. And so it's just, it's not inventing anything. It's just relearning.
Yeah, it just makes so much sense when I was looking into stuff like, oh, how do you control the weeds for the tomatoes, this and that. It's like, oh, here, do this. It's like, well, that's so natural. That can't work. And then you do it. You're like, oh, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it completely works.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually are alive because all of our ancestors grew the food that and they didn't have all that shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just makes that's what I mean. It makes so much sense when you just kind of think about it for a second. It's funny.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about another wine that you were doing that I've had, or at least you were involved with the Tendu series of wines that I've had.
Yeah. So the Tendu is ours in partnership with our distributor here in California, Rebel, one of the owners, Matthew Plimpton. So we're 50-50 on that. And our idea with Tendu is a handmade, organically farmed, basically table wine. And the idea, it's like we love table wine. We love, everyone who loves wine has this fantasy of whether they actually even were able to do it or not, of sitting at a bistro in Europe and having like some small village and having like a carafe of wine in the middle of the table. It's
of course
their village wine that's like, and it goes with the food perfectly. And you go, why can't we get a wine like that in the US? All of our affordable wines are just cheap imitations of expensive wines. It's like, we can't, instead of using oak barrels, we'll use oak chips instead of, we'll add color, mega purple, all that shit, try to make it into a fancy wine. And it's like, why can't we embrace a table wine? And that's the idea on Tendu. It's crunchy, fresh, crushable, moderate alcohol. I mean, no additives.
When me and my people got our hands on it, we drank all the Tendu. We stocked up on all of them and drank a lot of them. They're fantastic. So
it's so drinkable, huh? They're just like you can just drink it like water, like having a nice beer,
Yeah, the sign of a great wine like that is the 1 liter bottle. When you see a nice 1 liter bottle, you're like, well, this is either gonna be great or suck. I'm hoping for hoping for greatness. And you pop it, you're like, yes, let's go buy a case of this. This is good. Yeah, so I'm always happy when I see that somewhere. And that's like a blend, that's like a blend of all the grapes from. Well, tell me about the blend that's in there, I guess.
So remember I was saying that like California has the Central Valley, which is our farming valley.
That's what I was going to say. I thought some of it came from the Central Valley.
So that's a lot hotter. So the Napa Valley, just like most of Sonoma and like the Central Coast, we're closer to the ocean. We get that cool breezes in off the ocean.
Right.
The further inland you go, the warmer it gets as a rule. And so the Central Valley is hot, right? It's like warm nights, hot days. And that's one of the reasons the crops grow so well, because it's warm enough, right? Like we couldn't grow corn and tomatoes commercially here in Napa. It's not even close to being warm enough. It's like 85 degrees during the day, and then it gets down to 50 at night or 48. Right. Corn doesn't, it doesn't really ever explode into the air, right? And so that's the Central Valley, and that's where they grow tons of grapes. Problem is that used to be that they grew stuff that was heat adapted for the table wines of California, that they used to think about, the old Hardy Burgundy, Carlo Rossi, all that stuff. That was all like
we call that Pittsburghian here. That's what we call it.
Yeah, well, that stuff's like, the funny thing about that is like hipster wine. It's like Mataro and blends of like Mataro and Ruby Cabernet and Grenache and like Barbera and all this stuff that can handle the heat and retain its acidity. And like the whites, like the classic Rhine wine used to be French Colombard, Chenin Blanc. They had a lot of Trousseau Gris, which was called Gray Riesling here.
Gray Riesling, that's funny.
Yeah, like so most of the Trousseau Gris that like people are finding here in California pretty much dates back to those jug wine days where it was a jug wine ingredient.
I feel like I've had a great Trousseau Gris recently somewhere here. I forget who produced it, but I picked up a bottle of it because I'd never heard of it, and I had it. It was great.
Oh yeah, and it works so well here. And so I lost my train of thought for a second. So what unfortunately the inexpensive sector has moved to the varietals, and so they're growing Chardonnay, Merlot, Pinot Noir in the Central Valley, which is it's just not suited. I mean, it's just the wrong temperature for that. It's too warm for those particular varietals. They do better over on the coast. And so, so with this, I got hired as a consultant on this vineyard in the Central Valley, and really cool soils, like thin, gravelly soils, not rich and deep like most of the soils. And I thought, man, it's really good grape ground, but it's a Merlot vineyard and the quality sucked, and they're like, and the people that bought it are like, well, what do you think you should do? Because they wanted to do it grow a bunch of wine for their restaurant. They had multiple restaurants of different concepts, an Italian, a steakhouse. And I was like, well, let's graft all this Merlot over to stuff that can handle the heat that's suited for the Central Valley. And so we put in Picpoul Blanc, we put in Grenache Blanc, we put in Montepulciano, Barbera, Aglianico, Grenache, Mourvèdre, Carignan, all these varieties that it's a little, where I am in the southern part of Napa Valley, it'd be a little cool for those varieties. It'd be a challenge to get them ripe, but out there they can handle it great.
Yeah, those sound like hot zone Euro grapes is what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, and with the gravelly soils, they just do killer. And then but then 2008 hit, and all the restaurants closed down basically, because they were funding it with their main business, which was with mining, because the big farmers are generally in big businesses and stuff. So anyway, so their mining deal went down, and so they're like, we're going to switch gears, and we just grafted the entire vineyard over all these oddball varietals.
Right.
And so I was like, well, we'll buy the fruit, and we launched Tendu as a brand, because I was like, this is unbelievable. They gave me carte blanche on grafting varietals. I trained up a vineyard manager on organic farming, and now we can buy the fruit. And so we launched Tendu, and then now we buy from a couple of other vineyards, a couple of other big growers out there that we pay them extra to farm our stuff organically, and we can still get it in an $18 bottle of wine.
As far as value play, there's no question. I mean, me and my friends, I know who are watching this now, we crushed. I mean, I can't tell you how that was literally anywhere we were showing up. We were always, a bottle of Tendu was involved. No matter what else was going on,
Awesome.
it was always on the table because it was so crushable. It's like so palate friendly, food friendly with everything. It was just like, I got to say, I like hearing you explain it that way. It's like that village table wine that you want. And it really, without even thinking about that, that's exactly what it was. Like, that's what we used it for. So kudos on that. Mission accomplished for sure on that.
Oh man, it's thank you. That's and it's like people say, oh, it can't be done, and it's like, it's actually, we can keep our costs down and be able to give people affordable wine because we're not spending a bunch of money doing a bunch of bullshit to the wine.
Right. Just let the grapes speak, grow the grapes in the right place. You don't have to adulterate it too much. You don't got to play with it. And let it just do its thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that, and like the leader, I like a larger format for wines like that. It makes a lot of sense to me. Like, what is your thoughts, like pivoting on like a box wine? Like, I see a lot of like, at least I've heard of like higher end producers doing some box wines now. Like,
well, yeah, when you go to Europe and it's like tiny little like independent wine shops will have a whole section of really box wines. And you're like, man, that stuff looks really good. They have good box wines over there, and it's and over here the problem is it's got such a bad rap.
Yeah, definitely.
That it hasn't come back yet. But I like the idea of a box wine. I love, I grew up. We grew up with a box of wine in the fridge always, and that's how my parents drank wine. Was they poured this also glass of wine out of the box in the fridge while they were cooking, and that's how wine was in our house growing up. I mean, my parents were not sophisticated wine drinkers. But they loved their box of wine in there. My mom would put it on ice while she's cooking.
I would think that it also keeps the air out a lot, right? So it's probably actually a really good system in theory.
It's a really good system because it's Mylar. It doesn't breathe at all. It keeps the air out, and it just collapses. It's a great system. We need to get more box wine going.
Why don't we see more? Is it more? I would think that it would be cheaper than a bottling, but maybe not. Like, I don't know.
No, well, the problem is, it's cheaper, but the problem is it's just a specialty. We don't, since we went away from it on the small, we don't have like small scale bottling trucks.
Sure.
Because the small wineries mostly use, with ice, and we finally got our bottling in-house just a few years ago. Pretty much, it's expensive to buy all that equipment, and so most people use bottling trucks. Mm-hmm. And so there just isn't really a provider that I'm aware of for
a box
if you're
wine.
Like, I'm going to do some box wine. So now you're like figuring it all out from scratch, and as a small business.
So let me make a note.
Move out to tough on the bandwidth.
Move out to Napa. Start box truck wine company. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
That's the move. No one's doing that.
And then, there's a lot of prejudice in the wine industry too, because most people are old enough to remember when box wines were in everyone's fridge. And I'm sure like Gen Z millennials don't have that bias. I mean, they're wearing I can't get my head around mom jeans. And so I'm like, if you wear mom jeans, I don't know why you'd have a problem with boxed wine and take the whole package.
I mean,
they go together.
It seems to go hand in hand. I don't know. I assume you have boxed wine in your house if you wear mom jeans. This is my assumption.
Yeah, right.
This is a
My
guess.
mom had mom jeans and she drank boxed wine.
So
there you go.
That's funny. I read something, I don't know, the past year that it was on the rise, and larger producers making great wines were using more boxed wines. I thought that was an interesting thing. I haven't seen it near me yet, but I have seen it when I'm in other states and stuff. So that is cool to see. So two things. One, what do you think about people who put ice in their wines? What's your feelings on ice in wine? So I see
more power to you.
Yeah, just do what you like, right?
That I am real and 100%. That's what it's all about. I'm anti-dogmatic.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm dogmatic about is organic farming.
That's fair. I mean, but that's the thing, because that's going to give you the better product at the end of the day. So that's the thing to be dogmatic about. That makes more sense.
And that actually matters because the shit's actually poisonous that the people are using, and so. But whereas putting ice in there is like not hurting anybody. So
depending on where your ice is from, I guess, but it should be fine in theory, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. So, what's this year's harvest like out there? What's it looking like, I guess?
Oh, well, who knows? We're too far away from 2021. 2020, as you can imagine, was a shit show with all the fires and COVID, so it was, because before the fires, we were like, how are we supposed to harvest when we didn't know if we were going to be shut down or not.
Right.
I mean, luckily, we got lumped in with food as an essential business, even though a lot of people would argue that wine is not as essential as other foods, but so we got lumped in with food, so we were allowed to operate as essential business. So that was a huge relief. But then we just had to figure out how to get all of our employees to be able to work safely, because you hear those stories about people inside slaughterhouses all getting it because they're in a close quarters in a cold environment.
Yeah, it was like the worst in the beginning. I remember.
Yeah, and then you're like, winery is a cold environment, and we're in close quarters, and so we had to kind of rethink all that, because the last thing we don't want anyone to get sick.
Of course.
And so we managed to figure that out and space everyone out and get all the safety stuff. And a lot of on the vineyards crew, our vineyard crew is all long-term full-time employees, but we don't have a high education level, as you can imagine, and
right.
So. There was a lot of okay, what's a virus? How are viruses transmitted? Why should you care? Why should you, does anyone even read the news?
Yeah, education. There's a lot of education on your side to be responsible for, I guess.
A lot of that. And so we managed to get through that. And then we're like, okay, we just got to hope that we don't have to quarantine everyone right when the Cabernet's ready to pick. And then the fucking fires, took off. And so it was like, really? Holy shit! This whole place is on fire right now, and so we just started picking. We pick early. We picked like crazy.
Yeah,
it was a drought year, and so the fruit was ripe really early because it was so dry this last spring. And we actually got it. We're happy that we got a really good harvest. We only have a little bit of wine that was damaged by the smoke.
Well, you're lucky.
A lot of friends got zero if they were especially Pinot is very susceptible to smoke, and so if they were downwind of a fire, they got zero. Luckily we're upwind of the fire. Tendu got hit. So the Tendu is going to be 100% rosé this year, no red.
Oh, good to know.
Because the smoke doesn't get you on the juice. It's really the skins. And so by pressing off, what we did, we pressed our Tendu like champagne. The first 10 gallons you discard. Then we took the middle part, and then the last gallons we didn't bother to press it hard. And so we have beautiful, clean rosé, but there's no red wine because of the fires. Basically,
I'll still drink that. It's okay. I'm not mad. Is that why Pinot is so susceptible to the smoke? Because the skin is so thin on it. It just as soon as it sees smoke, it goes away. I don't know if it's
the skin thinness or if it's just the flavor transparency. The same thing. You can't blend Pinot. This cab, our village cab, is a blended wine because cab blends. It layers. It's like oil paint. You can layer the flavors with cab.
It doesn't say in here what the blend is. Do you? Can you?
Yeah, but it's 100% Cabernet from basically 5 or 6 different vineyards.
Right.
And so with Cabernet, you're like, okay, I'm gonna a little bit more red fruit. We need a little more tannin. You can blend it. Pinot, you can't blend it because the minute you start blending Pinot, you lose the character basically.
It's so delicate. Yeah.
It's just the way that the wine's delicate, and fairly transparent. And so I think of Pinot as watercolors to Cab's oil paint.
Wow.
And so
good way to put it.
So so any smoked Pinot is just screwed basically. And so one of the benefits of growing Cabernet is it's a bulletproof grape in a lot of ways.
Oh, I never thought about it. I mean, I've heard these things. I've read about grapes in like such a minute way, but that's a really interesting way to put it. Cab's kind of bulletproof in that sense, and Pinot being kind of
it doesn't get botrytis. It's just doesn't need much irrigation water. It can handle the heat. It's just a really dream to grow, basically.
How are there other regions of California outside of like what people would think is Napa and Sonoma that are doing a lot? We talked about the Central Valley where it's very hot, so the hot varietals grow there.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the super north, the super south? I'm sure someone's doing something interesting up in those ways.
Yeah, you get way up north, it gets a little on the cold because you get higher elevation, more mountainous and stuff. There's a few, like Humboldt has over closer to the coast has a small wine industry, but those are some real like diehards to making it work out there because it's a lot wetter. Same thing like far south, you have like Temecula, Cucamonga, Malibu. You have folks that are like growing wine, but man, it's an uphill battle in that area, and so they're really they're very passionate pioneer type mentality.
I mean,
even though like some of those areas have been doing it for a long, long time, like Cucamonga, but they just don't. It's tough too when you don't have a whole industry around you. Like here in Napa, I can drop the kids off at school. When we had kids living in a house, I'd drop the kids off at school, and then buy barrels from like a guy in the parking lot who's dropping his kids off at school, kind of thing, right? So it's a little tougher when you're more further flung because you kind of have to figure it all out by yourself.
Yeah, your winemaking availability is a lot easier in a place where everyone next to you is pretty much making wine, as opposed to, I guess, Cucamonga.
Yeah, we have all the companies, everything's here. Our press dies, like we had our press go out on us, to, during the heat spike on Labor Day, on the night of Labor Day, and we with like 4 tons of fruit in it. So like, let's say $15,000 worth of fruit in our press, 8 o'clock at night on a Labor Day. And we called the company and the guy came out within 45 minutes and fixed our press.
That's the unspoken perks of being in Napa, I guess, as a winemaker is the
yeah, exactly. It's a big deal, actually.
The customer support is really good at the machinery.
Yeah, it helps. It actually helps. It helps. But, so, the Sierra Foothills has a lot of interesting stuff going on. There's some higher elevation viticulture there. So it's a very different terroir, very much brighter light, not as filtered light by the coast. And they have a big diurnal fluctuation. You can get, up in the foothills, you can get 90 degrees during the day, 45 degrees at night.
Crazy. Cool,
rocky soils, interesting soils. And so the foothills are a really cool, interesting region. I mean, if you, and from here in Napa, that's like a 2-hour drive, basically.
Right.
Lodi, obviously, I mean, I don't know if that's obviously, but Lodi is a very historical wine growing region. It's about twice as big as Napa, probably, in terms of production. And, you have all this old vine Zin. We made a Zinfandel from Lodi this year because I used to work down there. So they're like, hey, make some Lodi wine. And so we said, well, I said, can I get this one vineyard, the Royalty Vineyard? They twisted the farmer's arm. Vines were planted in 1886.
Oh my God, Zinfandel! I love Zinfandel. Is this 1886 Zinfandel?
1886.
Oh my God,
that's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was planted by a guy who came out for the gold rush, and so
those gold rush people were crazy. I think that's why California's so crazy. They just gold rush people running out there to mine hills like madmen, bringing grapevines on their back. It's madmen.
Oh yeah, that's a big part of it, right? Is like it's like Alaska, like like part of our history is all these like nut jobs coming out here to find their fortune.
When I opened the show with that. I was like, California, the land of people who heard there was free money out west, they just ran. It's just crazy people.
And then they get out here and they realize, holy shit, this place is expensive.
Well,
like Woody Guthrie writes about that. That Woody Guthrie song, if you ain't got that do re mi,
That's
California
right.
is the land of the Garden of Eden. But how's it go? California is the Garden of Eden, a paradise, something or other. But it don't mean a thing.
If you ain't got that bling, I don't know.
You don't got that bling.
Yeah, that works.
That do re mi.
I mean, that was true then and now. I mean, the only people I know who live in the Bay Area, they're just like, I don't know why it's so much money here now. It's crazy. That's everywhere, though. The cost of living is going up.
It is. But if you can get established, though, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. If you get your roots in there, for sure. But like someone like you can't even go. You got plants. Like you can't leave. You're stuck now.
No, yeah, that's one of the things with COVID is, we're so fortunate to be sheltering in place here. And then I'm going, this is great. I don't have to travel to sell wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got the great sustainable setup. You're getting the farm. That's the other thing I want to ask you. So you're saying you're getting animals from farmers, which is a great thing. I try to do that as much as possible. Totally advocate that. But what do you get out there? Cows and stuff like that, or anything? Lambs, cows.
You name it. I mean, so we have all these hills. All those hills all up and down the Coast Range are covered in cattle, and so a lot of the beef in the U.S. we grow the calves here in California.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is they grow the calves, they sell the calves, and they ship them somewhere, and they fatten them up somewhere else. And so you can buy directly from those farmers and get the cow off the grass, and so it never goes to a feedlot. So the beef's really good. That's the Santa Maria barbecue, is because this crazy cattle ranching tradition all up and down.
Well, that's what's interesting. That's what's interesting about that style of barbecuing, because as I cook a lot more grass-fed steaks, it's a lot leaner. So you can't cook it like one of those corn-fed steaks, because you have to be a lot more delicate with it. Every cut is almost like a fillet. Like it requires a delicate touch, really.
Totally. And the beauty of it is you don't get the meat sweats.
No, you definitely don't get the meat. No matter how much wine you drink, and people blame big Napa Reds. No matter how much big Napa Reds you drink, eating grass-fed beef, you will not get the meat sweats because your body isn't full of corn fat. It's really interesting. I mean, that stuff has its place. Like, don't get me wrong. I like a nice USDA juicy prime steak. It's tasty, but like if you're trying to live and not die, you shouldn't be eating that all the time.
No, that's once in a while.
Yeah, it's a treat.
Exactly.
It's a nice treat. It's a great treat.
Yeah. And pork. We have there's a lot of people doing heritage pork breeds. We go hunting for wild boars. There's wild boars in the hills, and that's always fun to hunt for. You get them when they finish eating the acorns, so that they have that melting fat like a Iberico.
I was gonna say, like, you're in Spain, you get the Napa. See, you guys don't even talk about that. That's for whoever lives in Napa gets those. You don't advertise.
Oh yeah, you have to be quiet about that. There's a lot of wild mushrooms to be gathered around here too. A lot of porcini, chanterelles, but then sheep. A lot of sheep. We have a big sheep tradition. They used to have a lot of Basque that would come over and herd the sheep here in California. And so there's actually vineyards peppered around up and down the state, little vineyards. There used to be one where a place I used to work in the Dunnigan Hills, and that was a sheep growing area. And most of the sheep growing areas you'll find these vineyards because the contract that the Basque farmers had, which was through the Basque government. It was like an H1N1 program or something like that in order to get Basque farmers to come here and herd the sheep.
Crazy.
Is you had to plant a vineyard for them so that it was written in their contract so they could make their wine.
Whoa.
So the sheep growing areas all have these little mini vineyards tucked into way up in the hills. You'll find them sometimes that date back to the Basque sheep herders.
With Spanish grapes or whatever kind of grapes?
Well, whatever. A lot of them are Zinfandel.
Nice. I love Zinfandel.
I don't think they were picky. They just needed red wine that they could make for their home wine. It was like they wrote it in their contracts.
That's dedication. I love old world Europe. They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do your sheep. Where's the wine? What kind of grapes you growing out here? It's very important.
Yeah, exactly. We got, you can't live without wine if you're Basque, apparently, which I can understand that.
I get, yeah, I'm sure you can understand that. So, and the vein, so you were talking about those old 1876 Zinfandel that you're working with?
1886.
When can I get my hands on that? Where's that getting released?
That'll be released probably in August or September.
That's a Mathiasen wine?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta keep.
We normally grow our own grapes because we lease a lot of vineyards. You don't own very much, but we lease vineyards. But in this particular case, it was like I want to have because I consider the grape growing a much bigger deal than the winemaking side. But
right.
But it is fun to buy a super old Zinfandel and turn it into wine, even though the winemaking part of it's pretty minimal. I almost am embarrassed to put my name on the bottle, and it's like all we did was ferment it,
See, but that's what you do. Some other people do a lot more than that, so it's harder. But that's interesting, though, because I don't think a lot of people realize that. I'm with you, because the more natural the product, they make the grape as good as possible, throw it in a vat essentially, and walk away and see what happens, kind of. Minimal intervention. We want to taste the grape and taste what it was like to grow. To me, that's what's very exciting about wine.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I think a lot of people who probably think about wine don't realize that the winemakers are, leasing and purchasing grapes from all of these huge, I want to say conglomerates, but like big farmers out there. And that's like huge business. Like, I don't know, is there anything to be said about that? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that that's the case. I think everyone sees a bottle and they just go, oh, this guy grows these grapes. Not that they even think about it, but I don't think that's like a known thing. Yeah.
It's a lot harder and for people to break into the growing side because it just takes longer to learn how to do it and to like figure out, get your hands on a little bit of land and, and all that stuff. And so, so it is less common. Even like a lot of the more established wineries, buy their grapes as well. It's kind of sad that, kind of dates back to Prohibition where like the wineries got shut down and people kept selling grapes for home winemakers. And when people started wineries, they didn't have the money to buy the land. And we just have the kind of a tradition of, you have the farmer and the winemaker and they're two different people. And, like for us at Matthias, and it's something that our dream and what we've been able to pull off, but it's taken us 25 years, but is to Vigneron model where we do it all, grow it and make the wine and go sell it.
I think that's why it's fantastic wine. Every bottle I drink that's why I love it so much. So that's why I'm glad I reached out to you. I'm glad I got you. It makes me so happy to be able to talk to you, dude. But let me ask you this, because you're a wine expert and you know grapes and really grape growing really well. So I'll ask you, my person who doesn't know how to grow grapes very well. So if I'm like a very large vineyard, like, I don't know, like I don't know if to put a name to it. It doesn't really matter. And you're on buying grapes. I'm going to maybe hire somebody like you to come in and help me out to make my blend or make my batch for that year. At a high level, I mean, I'm sure you can get so granular, but at a high level, what are you looking for? Are you looking for like, sugar content and like ripeness overall? Again, I'm sure you could go, micro on it, but generally, what do you look for to keep that kind of consistency for these big houses that have to make the product that they want every week, or every year rather?
Well, so there's big and bigger houses. So the really big places, their consistency is just based on having the ability to do crazy blending because they have so much to work with.
And I guess additive, I don't want to cut you off, but I guess those big houses, I just always assume that there's a lot of additives and other things that just make it be the same kind of thing every year, because it seems so hard to do.
And it may or may not be a lot of additives, but depending on their price points too. Ironically, like the very cheapest wines don't have as many additives because the additives are expensive.
Interesting, yeah.
The most expensive wines don't have a lot of additives because they think that that you're going to be able to tell, and it's not going to be great wine. Like if you go to the cult wines, they don't have a ton of additives, and so the additives are all in like the medium wines. Like that's where they load them up. Try there because they're trying to make it taste like the fancy wines, and they don't have that quality of grapes, basically.
Right. So compensate with filler or something of kind of. Yeah.
But like what I look for, if someone hires me, because I don't do very much winemaking for other people, I only have a few clients, but all my consulting is on grape growing.
Right.
And I'm very agnostic as to what kind of wine they want to make. I don't really care as long as they want to grow the grapes organically and do it at a high level.
You do whatever you want after that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But making wine, what I'm looking for are balanced vines. Like here in California, I'm not worried about like, is it going to get ripe? It's going to get ripe. It always gets ripe. That's not an issue. So I know it's going to get ripe. So what I'm worried about are the flavors going to be there before it gets too ripe from a sugar standpoint. And that happens. That's like a balanced vine. So I'm looking for balanced vines. So that's based at soil. So it's like well-drained soil, has some rock content or gravel. So the vines have to, the water runs away, the roots have to work hard. The vines are hopefully not being over-managed, because a lot of times people like kill the quality with kindness by fussing with it too much and pulling too many leaves away from the fruit and thinning the fruit out too much and hedging it off too much. And then they think they're helping and they're really hurting because too much sun on the fruit just bakes out all the flavor basically, and
right.
then it ends up tasting very generic.
It needs some insulation, right?
Yeah, the magic that you're looking for is we don't have any control over that, and so So, so that you can't like get to the magic by like doing more stuff. Your goal is to try to keep the vine. I always, think that we're personal. The viticulturist is a personal trainer for the vine. The vine's doing the work. The vine's growing the grapes. Our job is, you look a little thirsty, give you water. You look a little hungry, give you compost. You look like you need exercise more, don't give you water, and plant grasses right next to your roots so that to compete with water, to make you work harder, or leave more fruit on you to have you work harder. And so you're just assessing the vine so that the vine's sort of like working out, like, and like I was saying earlier about like a person on a couch versus that hunter that has to walk around. It's a real thing because vines are physiologically not that different than we are. Like they have like their own version of cortisol, for example, like stress, our stress hormone.
I didn't know that. I had no clue.
They're more hormonally regulated than we are because they don't have a nervous system. And so just like for us, how you need to sort of like, a lot of the exercising is to like have, all of our hormones balanced so that our blood pressure stays in check, our mood stays in check, our immune system is optimal. Same thing with the vine. And so it's really like the vine, so it's not so simplistic like, oh, I need to like have a lower crop, or for more concentration. That's overly simplistic. Right. Or I need to like pull all the leaves away from the fruit and get sun on the fruit. It's how is that vine working as a living being? Is it to make flavorful fruit? That's kind of the idea. And so every single setting is a little different. This has a little bit more water. Well, it needs less water. It needs to work harder for its water. This is too dry. Well, we need to figure out some way to get some water to it. It doesn't have the resources it needs. And then it does the work. And so it's kind of a different mindset.
So you're a grape therapist. You're going to go in there, you assess it, and you play the Xanax role. You lay down when it's out of adjustment, you'd say, do this, do this, do this. I mean,
that's exactly right.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you start thinking about it, because, I mean, I'm no wine expert, but I've definitely sampled a fair amount, and I love to learn about it. I mean, I love talking to you about it. It's great. Like, I just feel like they're all just silly questions, but like, the care of the grape that you have is so crazy. And that is like what I think is fantastic about your wines. It's just like, at least it comes through. For me, it does. That, your viewpoint is on point with like how I feel. Like, just do what it wants you to do. Let the grape speak. Just do. Personal trainer is a great way to say it. Like, what's your problem? What do you need help with? Let's work on this area, and then you know how to do that in a very deep scientific way, I'm sure. But the surface.
Someone else has Someone might say I have bad knees. Another person has a bad back. Another person's overweight. And one has high blood pressure. So it's a different course of action for all of them.
Right.
But in all cases, you're getting them to a place of balanced physiology, right? And so that's exactly the thing with the grapes. So if I'm out there buying grapes, I want to find a vineyard that's as close to already balanced as possible.
Right.
Not something that you have to do all this work to, because especially if you're buying grapes, now you have the human component. You got to work through a farmer who is probably conservative and stuck in his ways and doesn't want to hear it. And so it's going to fail basically. And so you're looking for a vineyard that's already balance, and you go, okay, perfect, don't do anything. I want it just the way it is.
Does someone like you who goes to like larger farmers, because I'm sure there's like and I'm guessing there's like a larger farmer mentality where it's like, if I'm just a farmer who's been in California for years, I'm just gonna I got my vines, I tend to them the way I do it, and here's what I got. When you come along, someone like you comes along and you're like, oh, this is really intriguing, you go around, you do whatever it is and however long it takes to sample, and here's the adjustments we want to make, this and that, and then I guess you offer a contract, whatever, like however it works. Are those guys generally like, I don't want to do any of that, or are they open to it because of like money?
Mostly it would be like, I don't want to do any of that. Like lucky, I have the advantage now of having been doing this long enough that and people, like I can mostly be able to get what I want done because they're going to listen to me.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder for for a young winemaker getting started to get the farmer to take them seriously.
Right. Yeah. Your stature definitely gets you some pull, but it's interesting that is the way, like the farmers, because obviously there's a lot of farmers out there making a lot of, I'm sure, great and terrible grapes, everything in between, I'm sure too. So, yeah, I'm just thinking about how much like workload to go into like a, if you inherit or like you not inherit, but like, you're working on a lesser quality farm out there, you're thinking like years to get it kind of in balance. It's such a strange thing.
I always say it's a minimum of 3 years to turn a vineyard around.
Wow. Yeah, that's why, that's why some of those wines, I always, people talk about wines and cost and stuff. And like in restaurants, it's like, well, restaurants is a different thing. These places have bought the bottles and sat on them. So you're paying for real estate, really. But when you're, think about the bottle and think about all the work behind the grape, like there's so much more in the bottle, and you know that, of course. It seems like, that's, you live that life. But a lot of people don't think that way. They just go, where's the yellowtail? Give me the yellowtail.
Yeah. Or like, a lot of people like, yeah, exactly. Right. That bottle of wine that you're like, that Village bottle on your desk. I mean, that was cup. 2 years. That was like been in a bottle for basically a year. It's basically was almost 2 years in the barrel. They say a year and a half in the barrel. It was, you had a year of growing the grapes. So you grew up them for an entire year and then before that you planted the vineyard and, so you plant a vineyard, you're looking at 4 or 5 years before you get your first crop.
Right.
So like, so from planting the vineyard to that glass of wine could be a decade.
I think there's just something like primitive almost, like at least if you're conscious about wine when you drink it, like, they say terroir, and if you don't really think about it, you're like, well, this just sounds grandiose and ridiculous. Like, why are you saying these things? But it's just like you said, there's 10 years of work involved in just this simple glass. Like there's so much thought and effort and man hours and, so much in a simple bottle of wine or in a good bottle of wine, let's say. Maybe a simple bottle is probably not so much work, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's why the fermentation part is so talked about, but it's such a small part of it. Like, beer, it's always like with winemakers, we're always jealous of beer brewers because they brew all year, and so they get really good at brewing really fast. Yeah, and we only get to ferment one time a year.
Yeah, you could brew a million times. It's funny you say the beer stuff because I always ask the guests about their beer scene near them. But the brewery scene near me always, in New Jersey at least, blew up. And I started talking about Sierra Nevada because this is my favorite of all the pale ales. That's like my favorite and the first like craft beer I ever got my hands on.
So classic.
It's the most, that and the East Coast version of it is the Yards Pale Ale from Philadelphia, if you've ever had it. It's very similar but different. It's just these different hops. It's beautiful and clean.
Nice.
But on the beer tip, let's talk about fermentation for a second, and then we'll go to the beer if you have a second. So you used yeast, but in the vein of natural wine, like we were talking about before, like tell me about your yeast usage, I guess, because natural wine uses what we'll call natural yeasts, right? Like airborne.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, but you'll inoculate, right? You'll use.
We used to inoculate everything when we were in custom crush, which is because that's like shared space where we ran some tanks in a bigger winery, right? And so the guy next to you is inoculating with some yeast that has like a big flavor impact. I'd be like, well, I don't want that stuff fermenting our grapes, so we'll inoculate with a yeast that fights that yeast off that has hopefully no flavor impact because you can look like the yeast. There's catalogs and it's like, and a yeast catalog could have like 60 or 80 yeasts and you can like look through and there's like tables and it says this one's high ester forming, this one's more fruity, this one's more glycerol or whatever, nanoproteins.
Sounds like a lot of work to try to balance that next to your neighbor in like a shared space like that.
Yeah, so you can find a yeast that goes neutral, 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 neutral all down the line, and has what they call a killer factor. It means it'll fight off the other yeast, and so that's what I used to use.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that way we would have no yeast flavor impact. Just taste the grapes, but I didn't have the neighbor's yeast adding flavor to our wine.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like that would be like the idea for what what I enjoy, at least like to pure expression. That sounds like a great yeast to pitch. Yeah.
That was the goal. Now we finally got our own winery in 2017, and so everything in the new winery is no yeast. Now we have the ability to just have just because we don't have any neighbors and there's no other yeast around. So now since from 2017 on, it's uninoculated.
So you just press it, crush it, or even whole cluster, and then just let it sit.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's so great. And
that was the final piece of the puzzle, was finally getting to the point where we could buy a winery. And I was like, okay, now we're done.
Yeah, because that's like a whole other level of management. And then it's always like another mask. You never really know, right? You buy the yeast and you pitch it, but you're not in full control. So I would think it's like it's a baby of yours. You don't. Yeah. You'd rather not have to go with that kind of yeast with the neutral and the
exactly
the firepower. What about I was going to say the natural wines that you're making. Would we call them natural? Would we call these natural wines?
Yeah, I guess our wines natural wines just because we make a lot of different wines. And so so then the definition of a natural wine, I feel, is pretty rigid. And so there's and I feel like it's an aesthetic choice, kind of like what I was saying, like whether putting ice in your wine or something like that.
Sure.
So like filtration would not be considered natural wine.
Right.
Even though you're not adding anything in your wine, I don't think you're hurting anybody, but it's not natural. And so I feel like if you're going to call yourself a natural wine, then you are willing to go down with the ship on all of your wine. And so for us, we have wines like that Rebola, like our Rebola Jala is unfiltered, uninoculated, no SO2, organic grapes. It's as natural as you can get. That's 0.0 wine.
Yeah, that sounds natural as possible.
But like the Village Cab that you have in your glass, we filtered that wine. And because we made a lot of it, and we're betting our entire house on it, and some of the barrels had a little bit of Brett, and I did not want all of our wine to get bready in the bottle 9 months down the road and have it in a lot of unhappy people. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to filter it.
Yeah, so you would consider a filtered wine out of the bounds of natural, and I guess it's a loose interpretation, but that sounds right.
And out of respect to the people that really live and breathe natural wine.
Yeah.
If some of our wines are natural, that definition, some aren't, then I just choose not to use that term.
That's fair.
I don't want to be like a punk rock poser,
That's fair and super respectful of you. I think that's super cool, because I think most people probably would not do that. They would love to just whore the name on there and just, grab that market or something. So that's super cool. How long do you think the Village, because this is kind of easily accessible by me. Most of your wines are not. Like some places have them, but they're like, you got to find them. The Village I've seen, I think I saw this at Whole Foods. So like this is out there. These are not, but that one is. How long would you think you could sit on one of these Villages?
A long time. I think that wine is going to go for a long time. So the Village number 2 has some great Village in it. We increased that blend big time because of the pandemic. And so our Napa Cab, we brought our Napa Cab from 2,000 cases down to 800 cases.
Oh, wow.
And so that went barrel by barrel. And because we were late, and the pandemic hit, we're a restaurant wine with 65% of our wine in restaurants. And we were so nervous about what was going to happen with all the shutdowns that we decided we need to get a wine out there that people can afford over the summer. We didn't know if we're getting into a Great Depression. What the hell?
Scary
going
times,
on?
yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of our top Napa Cab is in the Village, and so that wine, I have no problem aging that wine for 20 plus years.
Nice. All right, I gotta go get a couple more and put them in the rack over there. Let me ask you about trends in wine a little bit. Like, I know one of the buzzes, at least over here, is like sulfur in wine. That's on the tip of like natural. Like everyone's like, oh, it's up with a lot of sulfur in wine. And then when you talk to some people, I've made wine in New Jersey, which means that they bought grapes from someplace in California. You just do it here. It's like a fun thing to do in some dude's warehouse or something. It's a cool experience. It's very fun. But I asked it about sulfur content. Like, what do we do with sulfur? Like, I don't know about it, but tell me. Like, what? Just give me the info. And he's like, we only put a pinch in because it helps with whatever it is. But that is definitely what I would call a trend, because I people who don't even know about natural wine versus other wines say, oh, sulfur gives me a hangover. It's like, no, I think that's a little I think your water content in your body is probably giving you a hangover. But what do you think about sulfur in wines? And I'm sure you've heard that. You've heard people talk about that. I'm sure.
Well, to me, sulfur is a time-honored wine ingredient, I guess, and so I don't have a problem with it per se. The question is, how do you use it? And so that's where craftsmanship comes in. So our unsulfured wines are not unsulfured because we're anti-sulfur. They're because I think the wine is better without sulfur. Like that, the red Tendu that the blend of Montepulciano and Aglianico, that's unsulfured. There's no sulfur, no filtering, there's nothing added to that
straight
wine.
Straight juice.
No sulfur, and the reason is that those varieties. It's a giving wine, but it has a firmness to it. It's a quenchy, red fruited wine that is on the spectrum where it's like it's not all the way to cranberry juice, but it has that kind of crunchiness, and sulfur would harden it up and make it very unattractive, basically. And so I wanted, that wine needs to allow it to be open. same, that skin fermented Ribolla Gialla. Orange wines, you can ruin them so fast with sulfur because sulfur blocks the action of the oxygen to soften those tannins, and last thing you want is a rough tannic white wine, right? And so the orange, versus our Linda Vista Vineyard Chardonnay, that's beautiful Meyer lemon, citrusy brightness, and a little bit of sulfur in that blocks the oxidation so that it keeps because those citrusy characters are very delicate aromatic molecules they'll just break down with the oxygen. And the sulfur is an antioxidant, and so it preserves those citrusy characters.
I don't want to turn it into wine school, but I will ask because I'm curious now. So when you do add sulfur, at what stage do you say? Because that's a great way. That's like the best way description I've heard. The Chardonnay, you're like, we want to protect this. When you taste it, out of the tank or whenever you do, when do you say, this may benefit from a pinch of sulfur and whatever percentages?
Yeah.
When is that?
So the élevage, right? The aging of the wine in the barrels is as important, if not more so, than the fermentation. Mm-hmm. And so, because élevage, you're just like in a cheese cave or something like that, you're caring for this wine as it's aging, and before it's ready to bottle. And so, so is it aging too fast and falling apart, getting tired? Is it aging too slowly and it's tight and hard? So that's so tasting your wine periodically and kind of going, okay, wow, I need to stir the leaves on this wine, and because it's bitter, and that'll help with the softness, or we're going to rack it and get some oxygen, or we're going to put it in a warmer location because it's hard as nails, or shit, this wine's actually going to fall apart and we can't get it in a bottle for a month. I'm going to move it to the coldest corner of the cellar, or maybe I'll rack it to a stainless steel drum and just kind of lock it down. So those are decisions you're making as part of just the craft of élevage, and so sulfur plays into there because you go, if the wine's falling apart on you, or the VA, that's turning the vinegar, starts going up, and you're like, shit, I'm getting a little tickle of vinegar in here.
Yeah, no good.
That's when you might want to think, maybe we should get some sulfur in here. Brett's taking off, and you're like, fuck, it's getting bready, or like,
and that's essentially gonna.
Or sometimes they just fall apart, and sulfur helps tighten it back up again.
Is the sulfur, when it goes in, and again, I don't want to get deep, but like when you put it in, is that essentially stopping all activity, or is it like reining it in? Like what at a high level? It kind of
reins it in, and then you add, sometimes you're like, oh, it's there's just kind of aldehydic, and a little bit of sulfur binds that up, and the fruit is fresher again, and a lot of that binds and just settles out, and it doesn't hang out really that long, or sometimes you're like, man, I think it's getting a little mousy. Then we got to get, the sulfur. It doesn't take much, just a tiny little bit, and whatever that bacteria, it'll just stop it, so you don't get the mousiness.
Where does like is sulfur something that's like can be abused? Like can you take a wine that's like not great and add a bunch and like use it to your benefit in some way? Like I'm trying to think where this trend of like anti kind of sulfur vibe came from.
I don't know where it came from, but you can. I mean. It's just like any of the stuff that if you're formulaic, you're going to lose character.
Right. Well, I think like people who are probably even abusing it, they're not worried about the character. I mean, someone like you is going to use it in a, like I said, the way you said it was fantastic. Like, oh, want to protect the citrus, let's get the right amount in there to lock it down so it doesn't get abused. That sounds like the judicious use of it. Because sulfur's definitely been used forever. Like when I heard about it, I looked into it and I was like, this isn't like a new thing. I don't get it.
The Romans were using it, so yeah.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Like I was open to it, but I didn't really get it. I was like, okay, yeah, I don't want crap in my wine either, but what are we doing? Are there any other trends in wine that you are seeing or are interested by or anything like that?
Well, the big trend is what I mentioned earlier that I think is a great trend is wine, people like getting into winemaking who want to make wine for themselves. Mm-hmm. So, the diversity of wine out of California, other states in the US too, but especially California, compared to, 5 years ago is huge. I mean, it's blowing up right now. All the new wines that are very different from each other. And I'd call that a big new trend because in the 90s, it was like all the wines were getting more and more alike each other, right. and through the 2000s, and now it's kind of like the pendulum swung back, and the wines are very, very different. So now we're getting into like, what is the California wine? You can't, which is great because we're a huge freaking state,
Massive.
the size of Europe, with as much diversity climate-wise as Europe. And so for the fact that the wines are starting to all taste the same was very disheartening. And so now it's getting back to, in my opinion, a much healthier thing where it's an exciting place where you go, what's a California wine? Well, that's like saying, what's a European wine? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Germany and Sicily are very different.
Dramatically, yeah.
That we have our areas are just as different as that. So you shouldn't be able to say what's a California wine. It should be like, I don't know, let's try it because this is totally, this is a new brand. I don't know what it's going to taste like. It's a discovery, and that's part of the joy of wine, and that's really a trend that's coming back.
That's super cool, and that's great. I mean, that go, like, to just relate that to like the show. So like in all these states, I've been trying to find like a food that's like indicative of the state, and California was so hard because it's so big. Like I have a bunch of almonds and pistachios and apricots. I just talked about sourdough bread and olive oil. I was like, there's just so much stuff. There isn't one or two or three things that is just like, oh, they make that there, and this is the thing. You can get away with that in some other states, but California, I mean, you said it perfectly. It's like Europe. I mean, it's like saying Germany and Italy. Like, what are you gonna pick? Pizza or schnitzel? Like, you can't. It doesn't work that way. It's too big. It's too vast. It's too vast.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would say it's but probably the taco is probably our state food.
For sure. I mean, well, they definitely do it the best out there, I think. I would assume nowhere else better than Mexico, because that's the best Mexican food I have is in California. Steve, I appreciate you joining. I don't want to keep you all night, dude. I mean, I could talk to you all night, but I'm sure you got. I see it's dusk over there. We got to get going.
Yeah, look at that. It's beautiful right now.
It's gorgeous.
Well, yeah, it's really fun. So,
dude, thank you so much for talking. I appreciate you doing it. I'm glad you responded. I'm so happy to talk to you, dude. Hopefully, if I get to California, I'll swing by. You come to New Jersey, you give me a call, dude. I will make some Santa Maria steaks in my yard on my turf.
No, we got to do some New Jersey. What's the New Jersey food?
The New Jersey food is probably like, I would have to say like the street hot dog, the like Ruts Hut.
I was wondering if the hot dog was going to be.
I think, and I don't even like it or eat it a lot, but the Italian style hot dog is definitely like a unique New Jersey thing. I'm far off from I do the states alphabetically. We're very far from N, so I'm still working on next week. But I would have to think New Jersey, like one of the iconic things is the Italian hot dog. I don't think people talk about it a lot. I don't even think they're that great, but it's definitely you ain't getting that nowhere else. So I think that's like a unique thing.
So what makes an Italian hot dog versus like a Coney Island hot dog or something?
So like a Coney Island hot dog is going to be more of like a steamed, like normal, simple bun that's like a white bread bun with like a simple hot dog. And then you could do, ketchup, sauerkraut, mustard, stuff like that. The Italian hot dogs are like on hoagie rolls. So it's like a much denser, thicker bread. And you're going to have multiple hot dogs. Usually they put at least two hot dogs that they split and they'll like griddle. So it'll be almost like a fried hot dog. And then they'll hit it with peppers, onion, whatever else you want. So it's more like a hoagie that has like hot dogs involved.
Ah, okay.
It's an interesting thing. It's not in a lot of places. It's at diners, and there's a couple places in North Jersey that specialize in this thing, and that's definitely a thing. I don't know if I've picked that yet as the iconic New Jersey food, but that's definitely in the running. So off the top of my head, if you're gonna hit me with a question, that's what I'm gonna respond with, because you can't get that. You definitely can't get that there anywhere else. Steve, thank you so much for joining, dude. I appreciate you so much, dude. I'll reach out. Be good, buddy. I'll talk to you.
You too.
Stay safe. Oh, man. Just hanging out with Steve Thyson's all. No big deal. Just another day, bits and bytes, What a great chat. Oh, man. I tried to keep it not... I didn't want it to turn into a wine show, but I knew when I was talking to Steve Thyson we were going to get deep on wine. I am not mad about it. That was fantastic. He was so great to talk to. What a wealth of wine knowledge that guy was. I mean, again, like I said, bits and bytes. Trying to talk food, trying to talk drink, talk to him about food. But that, you talk to Steve Theis, you were talking grapes, we're talking juice, and I think that's very iconic of California, even though, like he said, they're growing the grapes all throughout the state. And the food is tacos and Mexican food. I mean, you heard it from the man. He lived in South California, North California. We're talking Mexican food. So unique Californian foods, they're an agriculture state. They're growing the best of the stuff. All right, they're not. And again, don't at me, bro. Get in the comments. I'm sure there's unique dudes making great foods out there, But I'm not doing a 12-part series on California and all your regions. I'm not going to Oakland and reading about this weird soda that I did. That's just not what we're doing here. California is the umbrella. The food is delicious Mexican food adapted to California styles, and the drink is without a doubt wine, even though the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is one of my favorite of the cornerstone craft beers. If we're going to put together a Mount Rushmore of beers, of craft beer in this country, there's no doubt Sierra Nevada takes one of those faces. Talking about wine, I mean, there's so many winemakers. There's so many grapes happening. It was so great to talk to. I feel like I learned so much. I'm not trying to make this an educational show, but man, we just got some knowledge dropped on us. Damn. I might owe him consulting fees for that. I don't know. I might get a bill. So if I get a bill, we need subs. So tell your friends to subscribe, because I think we're gonna get a bill on that one. Getting a lot of views from competing vineyards. Man, no, it was great to talk to him. What a refreshing dude. What a nice dude, and such a knowledgeable guy. Oh, man, I think that's it. I don't know where else we could go from here. I could eat more California Pizza Kitchen garbage pizza, but I don't think we're going to do that. Fantastic. California, I think you were the first of the big states. Where are we at? Can we get a look at the schedule real quick? Alabama, out of the way. Alaska, you're done. Although I'm still enjoying that gin. Every time I make a martini, I'm drinking it with that Alaskan gin. It's fantastic. Arizona, great wines. Oh, we talked a little bit about Arizona. Oh, that's right. Steve was watching, he said he watched the Arizona episode. Oh, Steve Dice, a big fan of Bits and Bites, I heard. Maybe we should watch it. I don't know. Arizona. We should have talked about Arizona wines. It would have been interesting. Next time, we'll get them on. Arkansas. I don't think I ate anything from Arkansas. I'm not enjoying anything still from Arkansas. Those meats. Oh, yeah. I had some of the Petit Jean sausages or whatever they were. Great. California. Woof. I feel like you could go for hours of California. I feel like we should have like 7 more guests. But, you know, like he said, it's the size of Europe. I mean, you could only do so much work. I'm trying to keep the show concise, and I'm sure we're at 2-3 hours, or at least at 2 hours, right? Christ, we're coming up on 3 hours, for Christ's sakes. What the hell do you think this is? Wow, that was fantastic. What a great chat. All right, so California, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap up California. California, your food is fantastic. You grow powerful amounts of strawberries and olives and grapes and all of the beautiful, one of the largest agricultural markets in the world is California. Beautiful. Had the greatest strawberry of my life in California. The greatest artichoke of my life, which I said earlier was the second greatest, but now that I think about it, and after I enjoyed some Village Cab, I'm going to go ahead and just say that was the greatest artichoke of my life. Both in California, both in the same road trip. Restaurants. I mean, we didn't even get into the restaurants. There's so many regions. There's so many great restaurants. Just craziness. But it's not about that. It's about the agriculture. It's about all the great things they grow. It's about their sourdough bread. You know, the stupid gold miners, the gold digging gold miners came out, brought their sourdough bread because it lasted on the trail. That's big out there. Cioppino, we didn't even talk about. We talked about tri-tip steak, and pinto beans. Didn't even get into Cioppino. Sad. There's so many kind of iconic foods, but Cioppino's a dish. It's not a product we could purchase and eat. Maybe we do like a sidebar episode. Put that in the book. Maybe we do a sidebar episode where we California and a hack chef episode where we make Cioppino or something. Sounds like a lot of work. It's probably not going to happen, but it's a good idea. Those are the food products, and then as far as liquids go, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, my cornerstone, like I said, on the Mount Rushmore of craft beers in America. This is the number one Pale Ale without a doubt in my mind. Yard's Pale Ale only being second. And juice, grape juice, fermented grape juice. There's a million vineyards, but let's be honest, no one's doing it better than my man Steve Mathias and crushing it out there, staying true to the grape. And that's what you want, and that kind of goes to the bit of. Not to say the bit, but Bits and Bytes, we're trying to get to the root of the state and the root of the people that are doing it, and that guy really does personify the idea. He's letting the grapes and the terroir of the area speak. He's going, what kind of grapes you got? Let's make these grapes do the best work they could do, and then you go do whatever you want. It's literally the game. And, a bottle of this Matthias Village Cabernet 2018 is literally just drinking California grapes in a bottle. So that is very indicative of what we're trying to do here at the show. And Steve Matthiasen, great guest, personifying the concept of, well, at least we're trying to target with the show, and a fantastic winemaker, fantastic guy. Thank you so much for joining, Steve. Got nothing else to say. I don't know what to say about California, besides it's fantastic. That's it, guys. So join us next week. Where are we going next week? I don't even know yet. California's this week. Colorado! I got a big box of stuff coming from Colorado, I think, soon. So I'm not even sure exactly. I have a couple things here, but we got a big box coming in from Colorado, so that should be interesting. I'm excited. Guys, thank you for joining. Clear my throat. Thank you so much for joining Bits and Bytes Week 5, California. Join us next week for Colorado. This has been Bits and Bytes, United States Edition, California. We'll see you next week. See ya!